right. I am going live late tonight because it is a Friday night. Welcome back. Another episode, another live stream of American Truck Simulator. That's right. So, yep, I'm in the mood to play this game here. The last episode was 6 nights ago already. Yeah. And I also went live late that night, but I didn't play the game for like the first hour and a half of the stream because Steam was updating the game. Yeah, it took that long. It took that long for Steam to update the game. So, but while I was waiting, I was reading some of the news of the game. So I guess it was worth the wait, because after that I started playing, and I started doing the Kansas cruising event. I did 3 deliveries. You have to do all 14 cities to or from all 14 cities in Kansas. So it's just like the Oklahoma cruising event, except Oklahoma has, I think, 12 cities in that game, but Kansas has 14. No, Oklahoma has 10 cities. Yeah. So Kansas has 14. So I have to do all 14 cities in Kansas. And I've done 3 so far. So I'm going to do some more tonight. And then I'll finish the rest tomorrow, Saturday. I don't know what time. I don't know what time I'm going to start the stream. Most likely in the evening. But it'll be a lot earlier than tonight's stream. It's already past 10 p.m. So yeah. Anyway, this is episode 60. That's right. Already, episode 60 of me playing this game. The first episode was on October 30th, 2021. Yeah. And here we are, a year and a month and a half later. So that's what? Or no, excuse me, 2 years and a month and a half later. Or I should just say 25 and a half months, because there's 12 months in a year. So, yeah. And it's been live streams of this game, which I'm glad that it is, and I'm sure you guys don't mind either, because it's a lot of gameplay, for this. So tonight I'm going to resume the Cruising Kansas event. I don't know how many deliveries I'll do. I have 11 to go, so I might do 5 tonight and do 6 tomorrow night. And then after that I'll be finished with the Kansas cruising event, or the Cruising Kansas event, whatever you want to call it. So it should take 2 more streams to do this. Alright. Also, we got some big news here. The past 6 days. Yesterday. Look what they have. That's right, they brought back the Christmas event. This year it's called the Christmas Winterland event. That's right. Yeah, I got a notification from the SCS software on YouTube. It's a trailer. I didn't really watch it, but then I read that this Christmas Winterland event is going to end on January 15th, so about a month from now. So you got like a whole month to do this. I think it's the same as last year's Christmas event, but it was called the Christmas Reflections event. This year it's called the Christmas Winterland event. I don't know if it's the exact same thing, but I think it is. But I will do this after I complete the Cruising Kansas event. So, yeah. I knew they would bring something like this back for the Christmas holidays. And I'm going to try and complete this before Christmas Eve. So I'm going to start doing this next week. Next week I'm going to start doing this. I know last year we had the Texas Cruising event and the Christmas Reflections event happening at the same time. And I was doing a few deliveries for both events, meaning that it counted for both Texas event and Christmas event. This year I'm going to do it separated. I'm going to do deliveries separated. All right. So yeah, I want to complete the Kansas Cruising event first, get it over with, and then I'm going to start the Christmas Winterland event sometime next week. All right. So yeah, we got a lot of trucking to do. But that's okay. I'm fine with that. Because it was like that last year too. I did a lot of streams of this game during the winter holidays and around New Year's. And I'll do the same thing this year. Alright. Alright. So we got that to look forward to as well. I got a friend on Steam, 5Tair. I messaged him earlier tonight, but he never replied to me. He achieved a fairy tales. Use a ferry to cross the water. Requires the Washington DLC. I have not achieved this event. I have not achieved this. Yeah, there's so many things. There's so many things you can achieve in this game, so. But anyway, I'm going to get right back into the game. I don't want to waste any more time. And if you're wondering why there's no face cam, there was no face cam in the last episode because I was playing this show that I uploaded on my channel. It was the college football playoff selection show of, you know, people talking about the committee's decision on the final 4 teams in the playoff and all that stuff, and I have it right here. That's right, the video is 5 hours and 45 minutes. I played like the first 2.5 hours. So I'm going to play the rest of this video. So yeah, this stream will be another 3 hours from now. Alright? And if you're a college football fan, Bowl Mania begins tomorrow. Yep. And I did a Bowl Mania prediction video. So if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and check that out. But for now, I'm going to resume playing the Kansas Cruising event while listening to this show. And yeah, that's it. That's it. I know I'm streaming late tonight, but it is a Friday night, so I'm not too worried about that. Mainly because I want to get this over with. But I will be live again tomorrow, a much earlier time than tonight, so. Anyway, that's it. So I'm gonna mute my mic and resume this video right now. Let's get back into the Kansas Cruising event.
Okay, I'm told that we have to get to the New Year's Six Bowls right now because we promised America they would come up at 2:30 Eastern Time. So here they are. Let's unveil the teams that will play in the New Year's Six Bowls, a Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. How about Eli Drinkwitz? Looking for a bowl victory. What a great job he's done. Double-digit victories, and one of the most entertaining coaches in college football will join us a little bit later on. It's Mizzou and Ohio State has not fared well against the SEC all time in bowl games. Missouri relatively new to the conference, Joseph.
Yeah, I'm so impressed by what Missouri did, and it'll be interesting to see how Ohio State rebounds now, coming off of the loss to Michigan, not playing in the Big Ten championship game. I've talked to a lot of people back there. I know they're hurting. So can they rebound and get ready for a Missouri team that has impressed all season long?
You also see those rankings, too. Ohio State finished 7th. Missouri finished 9th in the final rankings by the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. Take a look at the next bowl game, which will be played in Atlanta, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. How about this one? Noon Eastern Time on ESPN, December 30th, as all of the games will be. Penn State, number 10 against Ole Miss, number 11. Now, in the new criteria next year, when you get 12-team playoff, and that 12th spot will almost always be filled by a conference champion that will be ranked lower than that. Ole Miss would have been the last team in the playoff last year. So you got Ole Miss and Penn State. What do you think of the matchup?
I like the matchup a lot. You have an offense that at times have been really unstoppable this year in Ole Miss against a defense in Penn State that is absolutely off the charts good. And I think it's another second one now out of 2, SEC Big Ten. Yeah. SEC Big Ten. And the results of these games will matter, and they will be used in favor or against your team and your conference in the months to come leading up to the 24 season. So I love the matchup. Great offense, great defense, and an offense that sometimes is a bit stop and start with Penn State against the defense that at times has been a bit stop and start for Ole Miss.
If only that was used with the ACC's dominance of the SEC, but I digress this year. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to leave that alone.
6-4.
I mean, okay, I'm just saying.
It's a winning record.
We're going to use it. I mean.
No, fair enough. But the other thing to say about the SEC and the Big Ten, all of the playoff teams will be in the SEC or the Big Ten next year, and all of the teams that we've seen up to this point will be in the SEC or the Big Ten next year as we go to what many perceive to be a Power 2 era. Continue on with these bowl matchups, and Capital One Orange Bowl. You know what? J.J. Watt, I think I'm going to give him credit. I think he was the first one to suggest this. Said last night, the committee should just call an emergency 16 playoff and just go ahead and put Florida State in, also put Georgia in. So if somebody wants to change the format a little bit, we at least have the Seminoles and the Dogs playing at each other on December 30th.
This will be interesting to me because we're in that phase of who plays in the game for you. Who is going to play. Florida State will be more motivated than a Georgia team that has just won 2 national championships and didn't get in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to watch to see who comes to play in this game for Georgia. But if everybody shows up, this is one heck of a matchup. And we'll get a chance to see which quarterback, whether it's Tate Rodemaker, will be back for this game for Florida State and how he looks.
And this is a culture test, really more than anything else. Both teams, 1 losses. 0 loss for Florida State, 1 loss for Georgia. On the heels of tremendous disappointment here with the result of today's top 4. Here's an opportunity to say, all right, well, we can do what some teams have done in the past, where they lay an egg, not motivated to be here, disappointed, look terrible. Or you can come out like TCU did in 2014 and absolutely destroy Ole Miss and send a message to the college football world that we were wronged. So I think it can go one or the other direction, and I think this is a tremendous matchup, and I can't wait to watch it.
If Florida State beats Georgia, will you think they were wrong?
Well,
Based on that?
Well, I think what was wrong.
Now, if Florida State beats Georgia in this matchup, will you think that Florida State was wrong?
I think Florida State was wrong. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Florida State was wrong right now. I feel bad for him because I think the criteria deserves evaluation, but
performance does not
I knew you were going there.
validate or invalidate selection. If so, there would never be upsets. If you say that, then you say that Virginia should not have made the NCAA tournament when UMBC beat them. It does not. You say, well, they should have been 1 seed, should have been in tournament. They lost. It's not. It doesn't. I told you guys not to bring that up. It's the only thing that really makes me mad. Calm guy otherwise. Joey, I blame you.
Yeah.
Okay, now wait. Don't show the Virgo Fiesta Bowl yet because we got to set this up for a minute. The highest ranked Group of 5 champion gets a spot in the New Year's Six Bowl, right?
Yes.
Okay. Tulane was that coming in, but they lost to SMU in the American. So now the drama is whether SMU hops ahead of an undefeated Liberty team, which won the conference, and they're undefeated. I want to see if there's the same kind of outrage if I don't see the Liberty Flames coming up in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl right here.
Yeah.
Jamie Chadwell's first year, undefeated. Why play the games? I don't care if they have the worst strength of schedule in the country. I want some consistency out of you guys. So let's see who's playing in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. There it is. How about that? The Liberty Flames, the highest ranked Group of 5 champion, and they get in against Oregon. New Year's Day, 1 o'clock Eastern time. I didn't know that was coming. I thought I was going to see SMU.
I just knew I was going to see SMU, and we can talk about the strength of schedule, and they didn't play anybody. But again, they played every data point on their schedule, and they won. And that means, so look at that reaction.
How about that? What a job by Jamie Chadwell, who made a name for himself at Coastal Carolina. Comes right in here, goes undefeated, and is going to get a shot at mighty Oregon now.
Yeah, I think it speaks to what Liberty has been in the past few years. They've built a really good program, and Coach Chadwell comes over and really gets them over the top. Congratulations to these guys going into yesterday. And again, if we had seen SMU, I don't think I'd have been bothered at all. They did a terrific job in winning with a backup quarterback once Preston Stone went down. But congratulations to Liberty. They're going to get everything they want right here. And the Oregon Ducks.
That's the easiest way to put it.
They're going to get everything they want.
And here's the thing, too, man. Nobody wants to rain on Liberty's parade, but I listened to Bo Nix in the aftermath of that loss to Washington. He certainly didn't announce that he wasn't going to play. But even before they knew what the situation was for them, it sounded like his farewell. And right or wrong, whatever you think about it, you mentioned the term culture test. This becomes a test for people who are moving on. Are you going to play in this game? You know? I mean, it's a big thing. Jaden Daniels might very well win the Heisman Trophy. Whatever bowl game LSU winds up in, is he going to play? Is that smart for him to play? You know, can he get the insurance policy and make it worth playing?
Yeah, and then you go back to when Alabama had Will Anderson, Bryce Young. I think last year, both of them decided to play in the game. I think it just depends on, to your point, about the culture and how your coach presents it. Do you want to go and play one more game with your brothers and try to win a meaningful game? But I also understand the fact that football is a team sport, but the business of football is an individual business. And for the guys going to the National Football League, you have to protect that investment. And so I'm not going to say a guy's right or wrong. I'll just be disappointed if we don't see the best players in college football one more time this season.
I'll want to see them because I'm a fan.
Yes.
Yeah. But I have no issue whatsoever with a guy who, in a bowl game, because in essence, many of these bowl games were founded to be exhibition games, and in many instances, that's what these are. And if a guy makes that decision to protect his future, I've got zero issue with it. I sure would like to see them all play because we enjoy watching them. Let's take a look now at the final rankings. Remember, the College Football Playoff Selection Committee doesn't do a ranking after the bowl. This is it. So for the final time, let's have a look at how Top 25 stacks up. It is brought to you by AT&T. Kansas State hangs in there, and SMU gets in. And look how close that was.
Narrow margin.
Wow. SMU one spot away from a New Year's Six bowl.
And you get Boo back on here and ask him how close the process was between SMU and Liberty. But again, Rhett Lashing, what he did with this SMU team, and being able to lose Preston Stone and still coming in and winning this game with Kevin Jennings yesterday, very impressive.
Really impressive. And I think another thing, too, we talked a little earlier about culture test. I think we probably need to tip our cap a little bit to Clemson. And Clemson was left for dead. I mean, they were. A lot of people at that point, midway point of the season, 6, 7 games, 8 games in, people saying Clemson's done, Dabo's done, that program's on the decline, all these other things. What do? They flip the switch. They rally, get a big win against Notre Dame. They finished really on a high note against South Carolina, avenging the loss from a year ago, and now they're firmly in the top 25 yet again, deservedly so. That's a great turnaround for Clemson down the stretch.
21 and 22 were in New Year's Six bowls against each other last year, Tennessee and Clemson. Let's look at 20 through 16. Oklahoma State falls a couple spots after getting blown out. Oregon State, Jonathan Smith on his way to Michigan State. They move up a spot in the final rankings. DJ Uiagalelei is on into the transfer portal. North Carolina State, what a season they had. Dave Doran with 9 wins. And Iowa, good. They only fell 1 spot after. They went in and fought Michigan. All kinds of offensive problems. Sitting there at number 17, and Notre Dame moves up a spot with its 9th win at 16. Let's look at 15 through 11, and Louisville down just one. What about Jed Fish and the job he did at Arizona?
It's just an outstanding job of what they've done out there and just how they become a physical team, the explosive offense. You got to give shout out to him and everything that he's building out there, and the future is so bright going forward.
LSU at 13, Oklahoma, Dylan Gabriel and Brent Venables at 12, as mentioned. Now, highest ranked group of 5 champions. We have the 12-team format, which I'm sure we'll take a look at that later. The one that we'll have next year, Liberty, which got the New Year's Six Bowl, would be in the playoff as the 12th team and the 12th seed, meaning Oklahoma would be out. The cut line would be just below Ole Miss, which is at number 11, which we saw earlier. Ole Miss is playing Penn State. And we've got Missouri taking on Ohio State, and Oregon has Liberty, and that's how the final rankings from the selection committee stacks up. Nothing really to get anybody too upset.
I don't know, that debate between 11 and 12 next year.
Yeah. Do we have the 12th bracket ready, Jeff Brown, our producer?
When you look.
See, this is the stage of the program, 4 hours. We're 2 hours and 44 minutes into this now, where I just openly talk to the producers on national television.
There you go.
Because a lot of people, including us, are watching the Dolphins and the Commanders right now sometimes, and we're also keeping this up. Have you got the 12-team bracket ready already? No. Okay, it's not messed. It's messed up. They're fixing it right now. Efforting. It's not the
efforting. Yes, that's it.
Joey asked, whatever Joey asked for, we try to make sure we deliver. So Blake Oregon will be back to discuss the Liberty SMU conundrum.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the College Football Playoff Selection Show, presented by AT&T.
Attend the 2024 College Football Playoff National Championship for the 2023 season with Playoff Premium, the official premium hospitality program. The suite ticket packages, get premier seating, all-inclusive hospitality, exclusive access, much, much more. Visit playoffpremium.com to book it today. Make it a memorable experience with Playoff Premium. Take a look at our New Year's Six schedule brought to you by Verbo. We have the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic on December 29th. That'll be Missouri and Ohio State. Start things the next day at noon with the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Ole Miss and Penn State. Followed at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, Georgia and Florida State. Certainly a couple of teams, particularly the Seminoles, disappointed that they weren't included, to put it mildly, in the college football playoff. Then New Year's Day, the day of the semifinals, will start with a Verbo Fiesta Bowl, Liberty and Oregon. What a moment for Liberty to get into a New Year's Six Bowl after an undefeated season. Then Michigan, Alabama, Washington, and Texas in the college football playoff semifinal games. Boo Corrigan is back with us now, and the selection committee, Boo, not only ranks the teams and puts them into the playoff, you also have to work through the New Year's Six Bowls, and the highest ranked group of 5 champion makes it in a spot in the New Year's Six Bowl. This year it is Liberty. They're taking on Oregon. Liberty undefeated, yet the flip side of that is their strength of schedule was 133rd out of 133 by most of the metrics. How did the decision come down? I saw with the final rankings, they were 1 spot ahead of SMU and thus got the edge.
Yeah, SMU had the big win over Tulane, obviously, but, you know, Liberty just continued to win throughout the year. 2 wins over New Mexico State. They did not play a Power 5, which we did talk about at length. You know, this was another one of those areas where the committee went deep to look at it. SMU, the loss to Oklahoma, the loss to TCU, but again, really good teams. You know, really, as we went through it over and over again, Reese, you know, as we do in the room, the vote came down and it was Liberty at 23 and SMU at 24.
Well, was there any concern about this? Now, look, you and I have talked about this before. I don't really think it's within the committee's purview, or nor is it wise for them to get into the business of sending messages. But are you at all concerned about the message that will be received, whether it was intended to be sent or not, about schedule strength? And SMU, I believe, had a loss to a Big 12 team in one of its 2 losses. So what about the standpoint of worrying about how it would be perceived as it pertains to who teams would be willing to play?
Well, it was a big topic of conversation, as I said a second ago, of them not playing that Power 5 school. The hard part, Reese, as we sit in that room, is we don't know. Did they have something under contract previously that got canceled? Were they trying to get a Power 5? In looking at that, our job's not to go in there and send a message, as you said, but we look at strength of schedule and bands, right, of 15 or 20 and who's in that band. And as we looked at it, SMU was close to the band, obviously not last as Liberty was and yours, but again, as we're looking at it, we're just trying to pick the best teams, and the group was most comfortable. The 13 of us were most comfortable with Liberty ahead of SMU.
We've had a great deal of experience in this now, and we've tried to put this in the context of the 14 playoff era coming to an end. It's going to be a lot different next year. There will be a lot of automatic bids, but you'll still have cement larges to consider. How do you think the evaluation process changes in the 12-team playoff era?
Well, as we talk about it, and you've been through the mock, I mean, the amount of time that you spend below 4, below 8, on down the ranks as you're looking at it is considerable. You're making sure that as you have people slotted in and as the committee comes together, that we make sure that we're getting it right time after time. I think I heard someone say earlier, that instead of 4 or 5 this year, it's going to be 11, 12 next year, which is the case. But they'll look at everything as we leave, or as I leave. They'll look at everything as they go into next year.
How did you? The topic of the day, and we continue to get statements coming out from Florida State, and we understand how disappointed they are. Once that decision was made, and you were left as the guy who was going to answer for it, a 13-person committee. What was that like for you personally? What has that been like up to this point for you?
Yeah, one, it's an honor to be the chair, right, and to be selected to be the chair. And you're hearing all the conversations throughout the entire period of time, right? It's not, you don't get to take a break. You're not doing anything but locking in the whole time you're there. They're going to be disappointed. Someone was going to be disappointed. And as we look at it, Coach Norvell, the team, their fans understand that they're upset, but our job is to get the top 4, and my job is to deliver the message from the committee.
And you've done it with extraordinary grace, and we certainly appreciate it over the course of the entire season. Boo, thanks a lot for spending time with us, as always, and look forward to seeing you out there during the postseason.
Hey, thanks, Reese. If I could thank my family for this, that'd be great.
You bet, man. Go ahead. We know a lot of your family quite well. They are they've been supporting you. Your family's been great, and we appreciate their friendship as well.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you and all y'all do. Thank you.
All right, that's Boo Corrigan, Reese Davis, Robert Griffin III, Joey Galloway, Greg McElroy here. The semifinals are set for the college football playoff. Wolverines and the Crimson Tide, Huskies and the Longhorns in the other one. Let's start in Pasadena with Michigan and Alabama. Wolverines #1 in the country. What's the thing that grabs your attention initially about this matchup, Robert?
Well, first and foremost, it's for Michigan, just their explosiveness on offense. We haven't really been able to see that from them. They want to control the line of scrimmage. Blake Corum has a FBS leading 24 rushing touchdowns, but I want to see more out of Donovan Edwards. He's their guy out of the backfield that can catch the football, can really stretch out the defense. And then in the passing game, want to see Cornelius Johnson get some more work in there. At the end of the day last year, when Michigan needed J.J. McCarthy to step up and make big plays, he did that for them. They're going to need, over the course of this next month of them getting ready for this game, they're going to need all these their best players to start playing their best ball this season.
I love this matchup because there is nothing like a Jalen Milroe inside the Big Ten. And so this is going to be a matchup of styles that is completely different. Michigan's defense is not predicated upon stopping a Jalen Milroe because they don't get to see one in the Big Ten. Jalen Milroe has come as far as anyone in college football from the 3rd week of the season till now. And so a team that there was controversy them getting into the top 4 now they're in. Now they get a chance to go against the #1 team in the country. There's going to be a lot of questions and a lot of answers after that game as to whether they deserve to be in it.
No, this game's going to be a war. I mean, it's line of scrimmage. Both teams built inside out. Both teams pride themselves on controlling the line of scrimmage. Both teams pride themselves on stopping the run. I think both teams have elite cover guys. Will Johnson, Mike Sanders still from Michigan. I mean, that's a 1-2 punch that can go with anybody. Terry and Arnold, Cooley McKinstry, along with the young freshman Caleb Downs. I mean, for Alabama, I think these teams actually match up very, very well. They're very similar. They are both really well coached. They don't give up big plays. Every single yard that you gain, you earn. So I think it's going to be a fascinating game of cat and mouse from a coaching standpoint, and the team that's more physical is the team that's ultimately going to win it.
And Greg, New Year's night, after the Michigan-Alabama game, Washington and Texas played. They met in the Alamo Bowl last year. Much higher stakes this time around. Sark against his former employer, not his former team. He doesn't know any of those guys in terms of having played for him. What are you looking for in this one? It's a couple of high-powered offense.
I love the matchup. I love both matchups, frankly. I think Washington and Texas match up really well. One thing that would concern me if I'm Texas, I know the team I lost to earlier this year is Oklahoma. This offense is comparable to what Oklahoma does with the big plays being created, really dynamic weapons on the outside. So that would be something that would be of concern. One positive for Texas, they have freshmen that are playing pivotal roles. They're going to be better in 15 practices than they are right now. Two of those guys are in the secondary, with Muhammad at corner and with what we've seen from Derek Williams, who is going to be in there at safety. So this is a significant matchup challenge for Texas to fix some of the things that gave them problems earlier in the year. Their secondary has been the Achilles heel. Will it be on the highest possible stage? And that's what we got to find out.
I love the fact that it seems like these two teams are peaking right at the right moment. In the Pac-12 championship game, we saw the best of Washington. Yeah. In the Big 12 championship game, we saw the best of what Texas had to show us. And so now these two teams are peaking. And if you're watching at this situation, there's been so much attention paid to Michael Penix and what he does and throwing the football. And against a Texas team, you want to throw the football. But where Dylan Johnson is right now also just makes you have to respect their ability to be physical, their ability to run the football, that I don't know that we expected to see against Oregon. So it's going to be a different matchup now when you look at what they bring offensively.
Yeah, a couple things, fellas. First of all, Washington has the best wide receiver core in the entire nation. And I know some people might say, oh, well, you got Ohio State. And I mean, Texas has a really good receiving core as well. But top to bottom, Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan, Jalen Polk, Jeremy Bernard, all these guys are going to test that secondary for Texas 4-5 deep. Not just your one and your number two. And then the other thing about Dylan Johnson is this Washington team is not a finesse football team, right? They run the football, they play action off of it. Texas is going to have to be able to stand up to that running game. And that's why you got the big 360-pounder in Tavondre Sweat there. But I think this is going to actually be the better game, the better matchup. Might be more points, which is obviously what we quarterbacks love. But at the same time, I think these teams are evenly matched. The quarterback that plays the best, well, their team will win the game.
Sweat and Murphy inside. Maybe you send Johnson to the outside behind Tanu, who's going to be maybe a first-round pick, at least certainly a high draft pick for Washington. The offensive line would not advise running inside against those third-seeded Longhorns.
The College Football Playoff Selection Show, presented by AT&T.
Time to check out a road test presented by Goodyear. Washington away from home this season has been quite good. Of course, they've thrown the ball against everybody, but had nearly 500 yards per game, over 7 yards per play. Why do I bring this up as a road test? Well, despite the fact that the Huskies are the second seed in the college football playoff, they will be playing in the Sugar Bowl against Texas, which will be almost a road game for them. Certainly an easier trip for Longhorn fans and for Husky fans. Capital One Bowl Mania. You can go and make all your picks. Scan to play right now, or you can go to ESPN.com/BowlMania to get in all the fun. You can form groups. You can compete against celebrities. You can compete against Galloway. You can do all kinds of things for the Capital One Bowl Mania. And as you look at Washington and the challenge that they're going to have there, Joey, look, it's probably going to be a pro-Texas crowd. I'm sure Washington will travel. They have a lot of fans excited to be there. You're not going to complain about where you play when you get in the playoff at this stage. But there will be at least a tinge of a hostile environment going in fairly close to Austin.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that Washington and what they've been through this season, I think they're built for any kind of situation that they're put in. We talk about close games in this, I don't want to call them struggles, but it wasn't easy for them. You know, they had to go down and beat Washington State at the very end of the game, their last game of the season. And you always mention the hasn't won by more than 10 points. I think that toughens you. That's why I don't really react when teams play close games and they find ways to win, because honestly, it toughens you as a team. This break has come for Washington at the right time. You mentioned earlier, Penix last few weeks didn't look great. He gets a break here. But I think they also get a chance to breathe, come back together as a team, and they're battle tested. And I think they'll be good wherever they go play.
I look at Washington, and I think that they are vastly underrated on the defensive side, first and foremost. I don't think they're an elite group by any stretch, but we had kind of defined them as a group that really had their struggles, and a group that wasn't great against the run, didn't tackle great. Coverage was occasionally susceptible, and it just kind of, I think we kind of talked ourselves into that. And then the Arizona State game happened, and you're like, I don't know. It's a hangover game. And then you realize, like, okay, this group they're kind of getting better, and they've improved a little bit. To do what they did last week on Friday night against Oregon, I thought that was a great defensive performance. I think they have difference makers along the front that could, if given the opportunity, take over the game. And I look at the cover guys too. I think the coverage has gotten tighter, and I'm cautiously optimistic that group will be playing their best football when they tee it up in the semi. Yeah,
I mean, for Washington, their last 9 games, they've won by 10 points or less. So they know when they get into those really tight, close games, they can get it done. And it all starts with Michael Penix Jr. You know, I gave him the nickname Big Penix Energy, and he's done an amazing job taking that and running with it NIL-wise. But this team, they got so many guys that were draft eligible to come back for this reason, to win a Pac-12 championship and be able to play for a college football championship. And they've accomplished that. Kalen DeBoer, in my talks with him and with their offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, there's no other guys in the nation that you'd want to play for than them. They know how to build that camaraderie and the culture that they have there in Washington. And now all of the fruits of their labor are coming to fruition.
There's no question about that. And you mentioned getting healthier on defense. Cameron Fabiculanan was back against Oregon. They have a couple safeties that have returned, and it's changed a little bit for them on defense, and that was evident, making it a little bit more difficult for Oregon than one might have expected going into that game. Liberty is going into a New Year's Six Bowl. Jamie Chadwell, that move from Coastal Carolina has worked out well. You see the playoff games coming up. How about this reaction in Lynchburg? The Liberty Watch Party, the Liberty Flames, champions of Conference USA after beating New Mexico State, knew they'd finished off a perfect season. What they didn't know, would they be the highest ranked Group of 5 conference champion? And they are, by 1 notch over SMU, champions of the American. Just a 5th bowl game in Liberty history, and on New Year's Day, they will take on Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks. Remains to be seen if all of the Ducks players will be there. That will not be an issue for Jamie Chadwell and Liberty. Jamie, congratulations. Thanks for being with us. First year there, perfect season, conference championship, New Year's Six Bowl. What's the significance of that to the development of your program?
Well, Reese, might have won too much too early, huh? They're going to expect. But, you know, for us to be able to obviously go undefeated to win the championship, and then to be able to make a New Year's Six with Conference USA, first ever in the history of Conference USA to be able to do that. I mean, it's a special thing from a standpoint of recruiting, from notoriety. Now with the CFP coming next year, I mean, your name is out there, so that just gives us more access, hopefully, if we can continue to do a great job.
And that is one thing that's really important, Jamie. When we get to the 12-team format and bracket next year, Liberty would be in the playoff. That's the significance of this. How would you describe your nerves waiting on it? I mean, we saw the eruption of emotion from your team. Were you nervous?
You know what? I was anxious. To be honest with you, I didn't think it was going to happen. And as a coach, you know, you watched what Mike Norvell had to do, and you're so close to being maybe in that New Year's Six. And I was thinking, what am I going to tell this team if we don't get in it? I was thinking about my speech and what I was going to have to do, because I was thinking it's not going to happen. And when I saw our name, I mean, it was a tear of joy, because hey, it really happened. And I knew what people said about why we shouldn't be in. And so, you know, you maybe read into that a little bit, but what a special moment.
Hey, Jamie, it's Robert Griffin III here. Just want to say congratulations on an amazing year. And you guys boast the #1 rushing offense in the country. Just how important has Caden Salter been to you guys' ability to attack teams through the air and on the ground?
Robert, thank you. Yeah, he's a special player. And, you know, the reason why we end up leading the country in rushing is because he can make so much happen with his feet. He's dangerous, obviously, passing the ball, but when the pocket breaks down, he can make it go. And he's been able to get his thing out of trouble because of the way he can run. And he's been a special player all season long for us. And we would not be where we're at without the way he played. And then you got to give credit to our offensive line up front. It's hard to run the ball when people know you're doing it. And those guys, led by Coach Durkin, did a tremendous job.
Coach, congratulations on the accomplishment. How long do you guys stay in celebration mode as opposed to now we have to turn and get ready to play the Oregon Ducks?
Well, after I saw we were playing Oregon, I said we might as well just keep celebrating, you know. I know. Right now, you try to get everything ready. We got to be recruiting. Obviously, it's a live period or contact period from that standpoint. But there's a lot going on. But the challenge with it is sorry about that. The challenge with it is we got to get organized and get ready for them while we're still recruiting. Everybody's got to do that, but that's the challenge.
Is that Dan Lanning beeping in right there, Coach? That went away?
I'm going to opt out. I'm going to ask him if Bo Nix is.
Coach, you've done a great job. You inherited a program that was really doing a great job under Hugh Freeze, and you were able to apply your own fingerprints while maintaining the culture of expecting to win. How do you kind of delicately balance that? Because I would imagine that's a difficult tightrope to walk.
It's hard to take over a program. It's even harder to take over a winning program, right? Because you've been winning, and this is how it's worked. And so when we got here, we asked the team to embrace the change, embrace the opportunity that we have, and then we were going to do everything we can to earn their trust. And my biggest worry, Greg, all season long was how would we handle a loss. And this year I don't have to worry about it, so that's good.
What's in your entire coaching history? What's the best bowl postseason swag bag you've gotten, and how do you think that's going to compare to what's going to be waiting for you in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl?
Well, I can say this: we've had opportunities to be some nice stuff, but I guarantee you, this will be the best that we've had. And so, right now, I couldn't even tell you what I remember because you're so focused on the game. But the Cure Bowl does a fantastic job. That's been part of that a couple times. They do a great job with their stuff. But, you know, from what I hear, the PS5s are coming. I might have to try to get one for my son.
You might need one of those. Jamie, congratulations. Always a pleasure, and wish you the best of luck against Oregon.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
All right, there's Jamie Chadwell, who is the head coach at Liberty. Hey, as we finish up, we're getting the entertaining coaches on now. Right? We got Drink coming now. Look at, bring me your best stuff, Drink. Here we go, baby.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the College Football Playoff Selection Show, presented by AT&T.
Capital One Bowl Mania preview, the Easy Post Hawaii Bowl. We just talked to Jamie Chadwell, just left Coastal Carolina. They'll be, Chanticleers will be going to take on San Jose State a couple of nights before Christmas. And then in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, hey, this is a big moment. Memphis and Iowa State, because 2017, Cyclone Nation went into Memphis for the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. And they drained the place of Busch Light. Not only stadium, perhaps all of the bars.
Okay, every single one.
All of them, apparently. Apparently, they drank all of the beer in Memphis.
Knocking them back.
So, distributors in the greater Mid-South Memphis area, store up, because here come the clones. And then when you get down to the New Year's 6, here come the Missouri Tigers. Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. Missouri turned in its first 10-win season since 2014. Explosive offense under Eli Drinkwitz. They've just had so many great stars, great stories along the way. They're looking for their first bowl win under Drink. 8 o'clock Eastern time. Ohio State, ranked 7th, disappointed after the loss to Michigan. And we'll see if they can get their minds right to take on a formidable Missouri team who took Georgia deep into the fourth quarter this year in the regular season. Happy to be joined by the head coach of the Tigers, Eli Drinkwitz. So what does this mean for you to get your team 10-win season and then follow it up, get a chance to play in a New Year's 6 bowl against a team like Ohio State?
And honestly, it's just an awesome opportunity for our guys. You know, it's been some tough sledding here for my first 3 seasons, and for our senior class to get this opportunity to win 10 games, to get a New Year's Six bowl game, it just reminds them that it's worth it. The hard work, the dedication, the long hours, the hard practices, it's worth it. And really proud of our players and our staff. You know, this day and age in college football, there's a lot of different options or things to do differently, but these guys stuck together, fought together, and now they're going to be rewarded with a great game versus a great opponent.
And Drink, you look at the final stats now. One of the great stories of the season has been Cody Schrader, and after the championship games yesterday, he wound up as the nation's leading rusher. What is that story? How does that story sort of emblematic of what your program is?
Yeah, it's the story of how hard work, determination, and mindset combined with talent is almost unstoppable and hard to break. And you know, Cody's a guy who bet on himself, a Division II transfer that walked on at the University of Missouri and earned everything he's ever gotten in his life. And me and him were up here watching state championship games last night, and he was keeping an eye on the old Texas-Oklahoma State game just to make sure that he finished as the nation's leading rusher. It's just a remarkable story. You know, he played the LSU game with a torn quad and just refused to come out, lived in the training room, and now he's put himself in a position to get drafted, and it's a story that everybody in the country will be proud to hear, and I'll bet it'll be a movie someday.
It's been pretty special to watch, man, and he is, I think, in a good position to potentially bring home the Doak Walker. What would you make of the quarterback play that you've had as well? I think Brady obviously had to endure some criticism over the course of the offseason, had to go through a quarterback battle, now finds himself coming out the other side as the commander of your offense and to showcase the level of accuracy and athleticism that I don't think we saw at any point last year. So what can you say about that position as well?
Yeah, I mean, Greg, you know as well as anybody, quarterback's about growth and it's about opportunity. And I think too many times, you know, with these guys everybody expects them to come out and be a star immediately. You know, you got to work through it. You got to continue to gain experience and develop along the way. And it's a tribute to Brady sticking to it. It's a tribute to our coaching staff to continue to believe in him. I think Kirby Moore's done an excellent job of finding things that fit him, utilizing his talents. I think, you know, Brandon Jones, our offensive line coach, deserves a ton of credit for protecting him and keeping him safe and establishing the run game. But at the end of the day, again, Brady's determination and toughness, refusing to give in to self-pity and just continue to move forward, you know, he's receiving all the benefits right now.
Coach, how important are these bowl games to not just finish off this season and send your seniors out the right way and guys that may not be coming back? How important is it to building for what you're trying to build at Missouri for next season, having a chance to play a team like Ohio State?
Yeah, I think our team gained a lot of confidence playing against Georgia the way we did on the road. And it gave us that jolt of energy to finish November the right way. And my goal is for this opportunity to push us towards next season. You know, next season this time, if we're in the top 12, we're going to be talking about the playoffs. And so in my mindset, pushing this program forward, we're talking about how do we continue the momentum, how do we accelerate through the curve, and continue to expect to be in this position.
Coach, how you doing? It's Robert Griffin III. You know, in talking to you, I've always found you to be one of the more honest coaches, and we've had a lot of great conversations. I called that game for you guys against LSU. You talked to me about being genuinely, truly who you are and being yourself, and that's how you approach coaching your team. How have you been able to get guys like Luther Burden III to truly buy in to being there at Mizzou and not allowing any of the distractions on the outside to pull them away from that?
Well, it's all about building trust and respect, and you're going to get buy-in to your culture the quicker people trust you and they trust each other. And the only way to build trust is to be honest with each other in the good and the bad, and then to build respect based off of mutual interactions. And that's who we've been. You know, it's not always been pretty, it's not always been easy, but we've worked really hard to build that trust within the brotherhood and build that trust within the coaching staff. In this day and age with recruiting and NIL, there's all kinds of ways for people to manipulate the truth. We try to be as truthful as we can be in all of our interactions and to build that trust.
seasons like this, bowl trips like this, will help those donors open up those pockets, get that NIL going too, make them happy too.
Well, hey guys, I got a quick phone call. Connor Stallion's beeping in right here. I'm trying to get a few signals here, so I gotta go. But as soon as we get done, look forward to competing against Ryan Day, and we'll go from there.
Maybe you'll get some help in that regard too. Drake, always a pleasure, man. Thanks a lot for being with us.
M-I-Z.
M-I-Z. Oh my God. I told you the entertaining guys were coming later. Only a Feinbaum, he loves it. That might make up for Paul losing some callers tomorrow. Let's see what we got.
Jim Harbaugh.
Who's got it better than us?
Kalen DeBoer.
13-0. I mean, it's hard to do.
Steve Sarkisian.
To win a championship is huge.
Nick Saban.
This is a great team.
Welcome to the College Football Playoff.
So the playoffs are set. The great Paul Feinbaum joins us now. So Paul, I have to ask you, look, I know that you have your judgments and your opinions, but your show would have been on fire had Alabama been left out of the playoff tomorrow. So what were you secretly rooting for?
Yeah, I had a really difficult situation, Reese. My wife is a big Alabama fan, and as the news broke, she was jumping up and down, and I was happy on one hand, but sorrowful on the other, because I lost the greatest show in my history, and I don't have that much history left.
Oh, no, I don't want to hear that. There's plenty ahead. On a serious note, what did you think of the committee's decision?
Reese, I thought it was the right decision, and I felt Nick Saban, put it best yesterday by beating Georgia. And I'll save you all the talking points. You're talked out 3 hours and 35 minutes into this program. But it wasn't because it's the SEC. It's because the SEC champion beat the best team in the country, and the team that beat the SEC now champion finished third. That's a really nice resume. I understand the outrage. I think it's a little over the top, and quite frankly, it doesn't matter, because we have a system next year that suits what all the people are crying about. Florida State would have played, I think, Liberty in the 12-team playoff. And I don't mean to point fingers back at the ACC, but the ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips put out this manifesto earlier, outraged and unfathomable, I think was his word, but he was one of those 3 commissioners, Reese, that joined that alliance a couple of years ago that really stopped the 12-team playoff from being in existence today because of the SEC taking in Oklahoma and Texas.
I'm wondering, do you think, I mean, there are a lot of machinations there, and like you, I don't really think that played any part in the decision the committee made. Do you think it's appropriate, we've had the discussion about whether it's appropriate for the committee to evaluate injuries like the one Florida State had, because in my judgment, that's the only issue. If Jordan Travis has been healthy and they won all of their games, Florida State's going to get in, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. It probably also didn't hurt that Louisville lost its last game of the season against a middling Kentucky team. But I think they have to, and this is not the NCAA basketball tournament. We've seen it in the tournament. I think Kenyon Martin, 20 years ago, cost Cincinnati from being the #1 team in the entire tournament. So I think you have to factor that in. You don't know what's happening next. But what the committee saw was the same thing everyone saw last night at Bank of America Stadium. A team that looked great early on, looked rather average in struggling to beat Louisville. And, I just think we tend to overreact on everything in college sports. And by the way, I'm not saying I've never done it, probably done it a few times today, but Florida State has a good bowl game. They'll enjoy that. They're not in the playoffs, and that's all we're talking about here. I think it would have been equally terrible for Alabama not to get in. It's the same argument going toward Tuscaloosa. But I just don't think you can look past the 2 differences yesterday. Florida State struggling against Louisville, and Alabama knocking off the #1 team in the country by that committee, not by you or me.
And so we shall see the final year of the 14 playoff. And as you rightly said, next year, win your conference, You're one of the top 6 ranked teams, and you'll get in. Paul, you'll have a great show tomorrow because you always do. Thanks for being with us, my friend.
My pleasure, Reese. Thank you.
And what a way to ring in 2024. And look at this one. Now, Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl, December 23rd, 3:30 Eastern on ABC. James Madison got in because there weren't enough bowl-eligible teams. They were deemed to be ineligible because they're in a transition period from the football championship subdivision into the FBS football bowl subdivision. So they are going to a bowl for the first time in school history. Of course, Kurt Signetti's moved on to Indiana. He's head coach, quarterbacks in transfer portal. And Air Force
run defense, though, in the country against one of the best run offenses. That's going to be a good versus good match.
It really, that's tackles for loss, and they've even lost guys on the front for the Dukes, and still have been great. And Air Force, man, they were 8-0. They won 4 straight bowl games, but lost 4 straight games this year as they go into the postseason. You can see that one on December 23rd. Las Vegas Bowl. How about Northwestern really improving over the course of the season? And they will take on Utah. That's December 23rd, 7:30 Eastern time. Utah swooned down the stretch as they had injuries and quarterback issues.
Yeah, with everything that Northwestern had going on in the offseason, firing their coach and moving forward, congratulations to them. Just keep their head down and keep working. And to go through that and then make it to a bowl game, sort of really off the radar successful season.
Yeah, going from 1 win to 7 wins and a bowl game against Utah is certainly nothing to be upset about. Seems like they got a nice program and a nice future building there.
You know, I wondered early in the season, I think they played UTEP. Is it first or second week? And our guy Stanford Steve had it on the fridge, and all of us were saying, okay, this is it. Better win this one. This might be the only chance you have to win a game. And then here they are, getting into the bowl.
Big Ten Coach of the Year, man. Awesome.
Tremendous. This one's always a great matchup in San Antonio, the Valero Alamo Bowl. And Noah Fifita, Teruo McMillan, if you haven't seen him, and you should have already, great wide receiver, a couple great wide receivers for Arizona. Against Oklahoma, Dylan Gabriel in their 57th bowl appearance, had that victory over Texas that was a highlight of their season. December 28th, 9:15 Eastern time. The Cats and the Sooners.
Arizona's one of those teams that feels like they're better than what their record actually displays.
Oh, yeah.
They really played some teams really close and came within a few plays here and there of knocking off some of the top teams in the country. They played a really tough schedule and played well.
Yeah, Jed Fish had those guys rolling down the stretch, and then for Oklahoma, losing their offensive coordinator, Jeff Levy, to Mississippi State. See how that offense works, see if Dylan Gabriel's going to actually play in that bowl game and not opt out. But they had a really good year as well, obviously beating Texas, who is in the college football playoff.
You know, when we bring these things up, when you talk about the motivation and whether players choose to play, it's not trying to make excuses for Oklahoma. It's just a reality of what it is and the different places where those two programs are. This is a crown jewel moment for the building of a program for Arizona. For Oklahoma, it's a little bit of we're scrambling. The OC situation, quarterback going to play. Do we play the young quarterback anyway? You know, so there are a lot of different questions that make some of these bowl games fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. You know, getting a chance to call the Fiesta Bowl, I'm really interested to know if Bo Nix is going to be playing, or if he opts out. Is that going to mean that now their young backup quarterback and Ty Thompson gets a chance to go out there and play? I just look at this from a standpoint of these guys have to make decisions that are based off the money that they're going to be making at the next level, and I don't hold that against them if they decide to opt out.
Didn't you play in an Alamo Bowl where they outlawed tackling?
That's a good one, Reese.
Isn't that true?
It was the Valero Alamo Bowl, and we played against Washington, and the final score was...
I think 66-59?
65.
Yeah, something like that?
It was something like that. It was up there.
Was anyone tackled in that game?
No, there was no tackling. Price definitely looked like the Heisman, though. He was out there balling.
Did you get tackled in that game? Probably not.
My running back did not. Terrence Ganaway had over 200 yards rushing. He was the MVP of the game. Yes, he was amazing. Shout out G-Way.
The playoff is set. The top 10 plays from the season that shaped this edition of the College Football Playoff. The 10th edition, so we've got 10 plays. Washington, Oregon. Ducks had gotten it back late. Chance to put it in overtime. Camden Lewis. I mean, think about it. Who knows what happens? He makes this. You go to overtime. Oregon wins. Everything may be different.
Yeah, very much so. Washington obviously got him the second time around. Further proven the original result was correct.
How many times in a row did Michigan run the ball against Penn State, Joey?
I think 500.
Yeah,
it literally
42.
But it felt like it was like the entire game they did it so long.
How about this one? Texas stops Kansas State in overtime. They go for it in the win. And remember, everybody needs a break along the way. Kansas State had operational errors on extra points and field goals that cost them a couple of times. Kansas State could have won that game, and Texas wouldn't have been in the playoff. Washington and Oregon, people were ready to put the Ducks in the playoff. And then Washington just came out and took control. Dylan Johnson with that decisive run, and Kalen DeBoer lifting the trophy, and he's in the playoff as the 2 seed. Texas and Alabama in the early season. Quinn Ewers, Adonai Mitchell has worn out Alabama, whether at Georgia or at Texas.
He's a killer. He's a killer. A big play threat, great length, great addition in the portal, and it's been a huge asset to Texas.
Well, there's been a lot of Texas in these top 10 plays.
We talking about Devontae Sweat. That's my guy, man. Look, getting skinny, good in there, dancing, showing him what he got. The more you can do, and when you get a belt from The Undertaker, you know you made it.
And then number 4, just the devastating moment against North Alabama. It was supposed to be a walkthrough game for Florida State. Did fall behind. They ran away with it. Jordan Travis with that horrific injury that ultimately, we talked to Boot Corrigan, ultimately kept Florida State out of the playoff. They haven't been the same team since. Yesterday, Alabama and Georgia. Jermaine Burton, the former Bulldog, scoring a touchdown against his former team. And then Jalen Milroe, the Tide was putting the game away. Got the ball, and Carson Beck, who had a sensational season, came up short in that one. Michigan beating Ohio State. Kyle McCord leading them for the potential go-ahead score late through the pick. More field storming. Michigan, 3rd straight play, and then Alabama's in because they had an absolute laser beam. Milroe to Isaiah Bond.
Yeah, Florida State, unfortunate, but with 2 plays inside that top 4, the quarterback getting hurt, and then this play. If Auburn makes this play and Alabama doesn't win, I think we'll have a different conversation today again about Florida State.
But they probably would have just put Georgia in.
You know,
which is possible. I'm just saying, well, it wouldn't have been an Alabama argument.
No, it would not. Alabama would not have made it had that play not been made. I'm not sure. You know, it's interesting. I saw our old friend Brad Edwards put something on X that really the most logical thing, if you're evaluating Florida State, is that Florida State's either 3 or they're 7.
Yeah, right.
They're like all the way at the end because you think they're different. You really think they're better than Ohio State without Jordan Travis. You know, so I mean, some of those things don't matter once you get past 4, but it's an interesting take.
Yeah, putting them at 5. They're saying basically, hey, Florida State is not as good as Alabama, so we're going to put them at 5. But based off what you saw, if you're the committee, you're telling me that they're better than Georgia, who was your #1 team in the country?
But I would, but no, well, maybe so. But I want to point out again what Joey has said, because we get this idea that there's unanimity in that room, and there's not. It could have been that 8 people thought, you know, it's Alabama, and Florida State was 7 for them. But then you had 5 people who said, no, you know, they're 4 after they didn't make the first 3. So that's how that thing can work sometimes. This is how the 12-team bracket would look if it were in play this year. As you look at some of these, Liberty, the highest-ranked conference champion from the group of 5, would be the 12 seed. They would be playing in Tallahassee. These first-round games will be at home next year, Joey.
And we can only hope and pray that next season we have as many good football teams as we have this season. This is the only season that I can remember where I get to the end and I felt like, boy, I wish we had a 12-team playoff. Because up until now, I've always been like, hey, 4 is good enough. That's fine. The only time, like, boy, I wish we had 12. Can we get 8? Can you just give us 8, Reese? Let's run it.
Reese, who would be the first team out? In
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma will be the first team.
And, you know, the interesting thing about that is I don't know if they're going to be able to avoid rematches. The 6-11 matchup in Athens, we saw that a few weeks ago. And, you know, Georgia destroyed Ole Miss in Athens, and you'd get that again.
There's a little bit of a debate, though. We can already maybe hypothetically play the game. Like, why is Penn State, with their best win being against Iowa, ahead of Oklahoma, whose best win
was against Texas?
So I'm just saying there's going to be some good debates even next year in the expanded field. That's all I'm getting at.
Members are in there.
There's going to be some
together.
Even though there's debates will die.
I know we've got to hustle. Can we put that bracket up one more time? I want to point out one thing, if you can pop it up.
Over the
no, I just want to point out one thing, that when we have the conference changes next year, when you have Texas going to the SEC and Washington going into the Big Ten, this is how it will look next year, but this would be impossible.
Yes, correct.
Before the 4 highest-ranked conference champions get those buys, and you couldn't have Michigan and Washington getting a bye.
We're going to have so many more
Scrap
issues
this.
next
Can
year.
we get back to can we get the right bracket?
We even got LSU's not even on this. They got the Heisman Trophy winner.
I would love to see what it looked like if this was next year.
In this scenario,
but it is. This is the only way you
This is the only way we can
I mean,
do it.
it's how
Liberty might have a bye in that scenario, though. Just you got an ACC champ, Big Ten champ. That would be wild.
But you would have one, two, three.
The chaos and
oh my goodness! You know what?
Liberty would have a first round bye. That scenario.
That is why. You know what? That right there is why McElroy was a finalist for Rhodes Scholarship.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right there, he picked up on that just immediately. The Avocados for Mexico Cure Bowl, Appalachian State had success in bowl games. It's December 16th, 3:30 Eastern Time on ABC. And how about the champions of the MAC?
Yeah, how about Chuck Martin and what he did, knocking off Toledo, the #1 offense in the MAC, went in there and got them a win. Congratulations, Chuck Martin, and what he's done with Miami of Ohio.
And because once we get 3 hours and 52 minutes into this program, we like to take you behind the curtain. Our fabulous coordinating producer, Matt Garrett, is an alumnus of Miami, Ohio, so he doesn't even care what happens in the playoff. He's watching the Avocados for Mexico Cure Bowl. Can anybody do that little jingle?
We'll let Palmer do it. I think he's a paid.
Well, of course he is. He's a what is Jesse Palmer not a paid spokesman for?
The College Football Playoff Selection Show is presented by AT&T. Connecting changes everything. And in part by Verbo. Private vacation rentals. Football away.
Let's take a look at our Capital One rewarding performance. Michael Penix. Well, it's nice to have Jalen McMillan back, isn't it? Connected 9 times, 131 yards against the Ducks. Won the Pac-12 championship, going to the playoff as they exit the Pac-12. They enter the CFP for the second time. They get there, they will see Texas in the All-State Sugar Bowl. Greg will be calling that game, so he's not going to make a pick. Who wins the Sugar Bowl?
Man, I like both of these teams, but I'm going to go with the Huskies. I think this team has that dog in them. They've won, I think, 8 of their last 9 games, or their last 9 games by 10 points or less. I know that Michael Penix Jr. has that clutch gene in him, and I think that it's a really close game, but Washington comes out.
I like Washington also. I think they're battle-tested. I think they're ready to play in any environment.
All right, Rose Bowl, Michigan and Alabama, Robert.
I'm going with Michigan in this one. I think they'll control the line of scrimmage. I think this team, they've been to this playoff multiple times, haven't come out with the result that they want. I think they do this time. They get all their backs involved, and J.J. McCarthy makes a couple big throws.
I'll take Alabama. I think that Jalen Milroe presents something Michigan hasn't seen yet, and I think that's going to be enough playmaking to win.
Yeah, I think Alabama's team speed is what will give them a slight edge. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I'm taking the Tide.
That'll be the first semifinal in the college football playoffs. It's been a great fun today to be with you guys. Tremendous work all day long. It's been a controversial day, maybe the most controversial in the 10-year history of the 14 playoff, and our coverage continues right now.
Reese and friends, thank you so much. First thing I learned out of that is Greg McElroy already got his bowl assignment, while the rest of it just got to sit here and wait and figure out what's going on. But when you're Greg McElroy and Sean McDonough, that's the good to get. Dan Mullen, Sam Acho, Matt Berry alongside. Paul Feinbaum going to join us on what has been a historic day in college football by the playoff committee. They did 3 to 4 things they've never done before, and because of it, the discussion begins. The 4 teams in, the New Year's 6, the top 25, and as bowl games start to trickle in, we'll give you those as well. And it is Championship Drive Rankings Reaction here on ESPN.
Welcome to Championship Drive Rankings Reaction, presented by Capital One.
And with that, welcome in. We were in the playoff penthouse for the past couple of years. We're kind of in a nice living room at the Dutton Ranch. Galloway was going to walk behind us. Everyone freaked out. Everything is good. It's just the people that belong here. Dan Mullen, Sam Acho, Matt Berry, Paul Feinbaum going to join us here in just a couple of minutes because we've got the rankings and people want to know what you think of the top 4 of how they got in. You've got Michigan and Alabama in the Rose Bowl. Can't wait to see that. Then you've got Sark after dark. Washington taking on Texas in the Sugar Bowl. Let's bring in Paul Feinbaum joining us now. And Paul, you and I discussed this earlier today. Just first blush, your thoughts on the top 4 and how it went down.
They were right. I know that's not controversial. To me, it was not a travesty. It was not unfathomable. I think this committee did it well. And Yeah, I don't know if courage is the right word, because we all get carried away. This doesn't take courage. This just takes common sense. And that's what they use. They use common sense to put Alabama in there at the 4 position, leaving Florida State out. Quite frankly, nobody has talked much about this today, but the idea that Georgia is the number 6 team might be unfathomable, Matt.
Yeah, Paul, we consider and talk about all I want, because Florida State's the team that everyone's ID'd has got the right to be the most upset. But yeah, Georgia goes from 1 to 6 in a matter of 4 quarters. Paul, we'll get back to you in a second. Coach, I'll start with you. That was the big reaction today, that Florida State, they win a Power 5 conference championship undefeated. They started the day at 4, and they find their way out after winning. Your thoughts on those top 4?
Well, you look at college football is won on the field. And so there were 5 teams to me that earned playoff spots this season, winning conference championships. Someone was going to be disappointed. You can justify it however you wanted to go with those 5 teams. It would have been easier for me to justify leaving Alabama out because they lost head-to-head to Texas, to one of those other teams. I have a hard time. A team that goes undefeated, is so hard to go undefeated in a Power 5 conference with really quality wins with Florida State. I had a harder time with that than I would have with Alabama being left out. But it's hard to argue either way when you look at it. There are 5 deserving teams.
So, yeah, there was going to be
not deserving. Deserving. I can't. There's 5 teams that earned the right to go to the playoffs.
We knew coming in when we left last night on College Football Final, we had a pretty good idea that the 3 were going to be Michigan. We thought they should be pretty confident they were. Washington, they should be pretty confident they were. Texas, because of the win over Alabama, was likely 3, and then Reese said it at the top of their show today. There were basically 2 teams fighting for that 4th and final spot, or 4 for 2, however you like it. At the end of the day, the committee decided an SEC champion who just beat the #1 team in the country belonged in the playoff over a Florida State team whose MVP and ACC Player of the Year was out for the season.
But also a Florida State team that not only won their conference, right, ACC conference champs, but also did it without their quarterback. So some would actually argue that that's even a stronger argument for how complete of a team they are, whether from a defensive perspective, a running game perspective, even special teams perspective. We've got a chance to win, not with our #2 quarterback, our #3 quarterback. And so I think for Mike Norvell and his team, for players on that team, to say, man, how do you know what we could have been in the future with maybe a whole month, 4 weeks of practice with Rodemaker?
This is legitimately one of those rare cases, I believe, in college football and in sport, where it depends on what side you believe in, that you could argue for any of them. I just had someone hit me up on Twitter about Nick Foles winning the Super Bowl as a backup quarterback for Carson. It happens, but it's not going to happen for Florida State. Again, history today. So much history made by the College Football Playoff Committee. This is the one that Florida State did not want to be a part of. They are the first undefeated Power 5 champ to not make it to the College Football Playoff. Now, the Jordan Travis video of his injury was heartbreaking, but to me, this was equally as heartbreaking. That is the reaction from the Florida State watch party when they discovered that they would not be playing for the College Football Playoff. You see Mike Norvell, his head just dropped. His players are stunned. He actually had to get up. He addressed his team after that. A leadership moment from a head coach. You've been a head coach at a moment where there's disappointment with your team.
I mean, let's go explain to 18 to 22-year-olds. You did everything that was asked of you. You did more. You did more than most teams have done. There's been very few undefeated national champions. Most national champions have lost. You've done it all, and yet this group of 13 people decided you didn't deserve it, even though you earned it on the field. That's a hard moment for him to come up with and to explain to those young men.
Well, he explained to us afterwards, us being the general public and the media, about what he thinks of the decision of the College Football Playoff Committee. I want to read this to you. I'm disgusted and infuriated with the committee's decision today to have what was earned on the field taken away because a group of people decided they knew better than the results of the games. What is the point of playing games? Do you tell players it is okay to quit if someone goes down? Do you not play a senior on senior day for fear of injury? Where is the motivation? He would go on to say, my heart breaks for the talented FSU student athletes and coaches and their passionate and loyal fans. Florida State deserves better. College football deserved better. That was Mike Norvell. And then his star quarterback, Jordan Travis. This one got me because Jordan has shouldered quite a bit throughout the year for this team, and then he blamed himself on a tweet afterwards. Here's what he had to say. Devastated, heartbroken, and so much disbelief right now. I wish my leg broke earlier in the season so you all could see this team is much more than a quarterback. I thought results matter. 13-0, and this roster matches up across any team in those top 4 rankings. I am so sorry. Go Florida State, or go Noles, rather, as we welcome back Paul Feinbaum. And Paul, look, I think there are a lot of us that agree that the playoff committee got it correct in terms of what we have as a sample set for the 4 best teams in the country. But when you hear that reaction out of Florida State, it also can be true that they have a point with everything that they said today.
They do, and I think any reasonable person feels pain in their heart when you read a statement from just such an outstanding young person like Jordan Travis. And I sympathize with Coach Norvell as well. You know what I don't sympathize, though, is with the administration at Florida State acting like there has been some great tragedy. And Matt, they brought some of this on themselves. I know this sounds crazy that I'm about to go off on a conspiratorial rant here, but there are a lot of people in college athletics that try to be collegial, including those 13 on the on this committee. And what Florida State did about 4 months ago is not collegial. They stood up at a Board of Trustees meeting and essentially said, we're open for bid. The ACC isn't good enough for us. We're holding this thing together. You remember that. It was like a food fight in the cafeteria in 7th grade. And that has nothing to do with what happens on the football field. But I believe very strongly it gets into people's mindset. And I hope this was not used against them, because that would be wrong. But it affects the way people think. And those people on that committee, I wonder if they did not think about that moment in time a little bit over the last 24 hours.
Paul, that's an interesting take, and some of the stuff off the field that we've been talking about with Florida State. Gentlemen, I'll bring it back in here with you. And here's Florida State's dilemma. Ott, you said it earlier, but they go and they win with their backup quarterback. That is true. And then when you look at whether it was going to be Tate Rodemaker, which you believe it would have been had they made the college football playoff, they had a month to prepare, it could have been a different player. But when you looked at the matchup with Florida State as they stood with Jordan Travis, top 14, you take an MVP off of any team, a most valuable player, it's not going to be the same squad that we saw for the better part of 11 weeks. Again, both of these statements can be true.
Well, this is why I empathize with Jordan Travis, because you heard the words he said, right? My dad's a doctor of mental health, so like psychologist, right? Words matter. He said, I wish my leg would have broke earlier. So what? So that y'all could see how good this team really is. I think we saw a little bit, bits and pieces of how good this team could actually be, right? Trey Benson, 2 weeks ago against Florida, had 3 touchdowns. Their star running back had his best day. Then yesterday, we saw Toa Feely go off, right? One of his best days. And so we saw the defense play one of their best performances against a Louisville team that has scored 30 and 30 and 30 over and over again. And so the reason I empathize is that it's almost like we're putting Jordan Travis on this pedestal and at the same time taking it away from his entire team. Yes, he played outstanding, and yes, he is their MVP. But man, Keon Coleman he's an amazing receiver. So is Johnny Wilson, so is that defense, so are those running backs. I mean, so is the offensive line, so are some of the linebackers, so is Jared Verse, so the list goes on. And so my point is this. I understand that the committee's job to a certain extent is to project.
Which is in the criteria.
Sure. But, I mean, people go back to Ohio State and Cardell Jones, that injury, right? They're on their 3rd-string quarterback, and all of a sudden they win a championship, right? People go back to that. And then also I just go back to, yes, there is a 2-game sample size of either Rodemaker and or your 3rd-string quarterback.
Brock Glenn.
But that may not be enough, at least in my perspective, to count this Florida State team
Let
out.
me combat one thing you said there with the Keon Colemans and the Johnny Wilsons and the Jaheim Bells, and I get that. They are loaded. But with the quarterbacks that they had in the past couple of weeks, Keon Coleman, non-existent.
Yeah.
The receiver, Johnny Wilson, non-existent.
Yes.
Right? They were non-existent because when you take out your best player that makes everyone around them better, you lose that sense of explosiveness when you got to do.
That's actually a little bit inaccurate. And the reason I say that's inaccurate is that even when Jordan Travis was healthy, there were some times where both Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson were, quote, non-existent. Now, part of that, there were some injury issues, right? They sat out. But also, there are some games where I'm saying, hey, Keon, I need you to step up, right? Syracuse game goes for 140, or first week goes for 122, right? So there are 9 catches in both of those games, right? Where Keon Coleman did that. So even with Jordan Travis, there are times where you want your best player to play better or play worse. The reason that Keon Coleman didn't have great games wasn't because Jordan Travis wasn't there. There were weeks where Jordan Travis was there and Keon Coleman or Johnny Wilson didn't play great. That doesn't mean that they couldn't have done it, right? That's kind of point one. And then I would say point two, actually, I think that's where I'll stop, right?
Coach,
I'll
get in
stop there.
there.
Well, because if you really look at it, and I know everyone want to make the different arguments, you said the quarterbacks don't look great. Football is a team game. When you're there as a coaching staff, when you're there as players, you know the game plan going in. The game plan is to win the game. There's going to be some games you're going to sit there and say, hey guys, the plan this week, we got to go win 14-10. We're going to win 10-7. Hey, this week, we're going to win 35-30, 32. You know, I mean, whatever it is the game plan. The last couple of weeks, Florida State has gone in and says, we're going to run the football. We're going to control it that way. We're going to play great defense. The performance the Florida State defense put on in that championship game was one of the great defensive performances I've ever seen. Minus 23 yards against a very good Louisville team in the fourth quarter. They have a punt blocked. Game over. It's all done. Make play, turnover.
Yeah.
Game on the line. Okay, all Louisville, this is their chance to go to it. Sack. One of the greatest defensive performances. Why? Because the game plan was built around this is how we are going to win the football game. So to sit there and just say, well, boy, let's discredit them. Their quarterback's awful. They have no chance. They can't do this. They came in with the game plan to protect. They know we're playing with a true freshman third-string quarterback. We have great players. We're going to do everything. We're going to go run for almost 170 yards against one of the best run defenses in the country. And they did.
Yeah, and I'd say two things. One, had Louisville not lost to Kentucky the week before, maybe you're talking about a top 10 Louisville win for Florida State and Alabama. They beat the #1 ranked team in the country, the two-time defending champion who had won 29 straight. There were so many things that were going against Florida State last night, and they just couldn't get it through the committee's head that, you know what, they belonged in the
You know, people keep taking it. We're not taking away from Alabama. That's the hard thing. It's not like, okay, Alabama shouldn't be in. Florida State should be in. Alabama earned to be in as well. The argument is there were 5 teams that earned it. Someone had to be left out. I do think Florida State was the team, though, that should have gotten the nod for what they accomplished.
What a way for the 4-team playoff to go out. In Florida State, they were left on the outside looking in. Still ahead on Championship Drive Rankings Reaction. We talked about the odd man out. We want to hear from CFP Playoff Committee Chairman Boot Corrigan on the why. He explained why Alabama got the nod over Florida State. Plus, we'll preview the semifinals. Listen, say what you want. These are really good football games. We'll preview those coming up next.
Championship Drive Rankings Reaction is presented by Capital One. What's in your wallet?
The final time the playoff bracket will have just 4 teams. Michigan and Alabama in the Rose Bowl, Washington and Texas in the Sugar Bowl. That's what the committee decided today as a part of their criteria. And part of the criteria is other relevant factors, including player and coach unavailability, especially if it's a marquee player. And conference championships, you take those into consideration if all things are equal. Strength of schedule. By the way, Florida State 55th strength of schedule. Alabama 5th ranked strength of schedule. So a lot of things went into this decision that left Florida State on the outside looking in as they were delivered the news, waiting. The suspense was built, and they see that Alabama, the 4th ranked team, came up and they weren't there. Big fly on the wall when that committee was going through their deliberations late into the night and early in the morning, because as you heard Boo say a couple of times, there was debate internally, and you knew there would be because you were going to make history either way. An undefeated Power 5 conference champion or a team outside of the top 6, in this case Alabama and Texas, both 8 and 7, working their way into 3 and 4 respectively. But with Boo, he was candid about it. He said, look, player availability was big in this decision.
And that makes total sense, right? You're looking at some of the criteria, especially only when it comes to selecting this Final Four and saying coaching availability, player availability, and that makes total sense. My argument still would be that sentiment that Jordan Travis had of, man, maybe if he gets injured earlier, they can see what this team really looks like outside of 1 week with your 2nd string, one week with your 3rd string. That's the frustrating and tough part for me. I think about if I were a player for Florida State or a coach, and I've done everything I'm supposed to do, right? Defense dominated. Braden Fisk, right? Transfer from Western Michigan. Dominated, right? Toa Feely at running back. Played outstanding. Trey Benson, even the week before, played great. And we won. Coach, what's the job? It's winning. I thought I was supposed to win. Oh, no, you got to win by 20 or 30 or 40. That's the part where I still get a little bit frustrated. Okay, how much is enough? And then even if I do win by 20 or 30, there's still that argument that you hear some people say, well, then in that case, maybe it should be a Georgia, because Georgia's one of the 4 best teams, right? If you talk about best teams, it gets a little bit convoluted of saying, okay, well, why is one team better than another if it's not about winning the games and a comparable strength of schedule?
We talked about disservice with the rankings earlier, Coach, and I want to throw this at you. If the committee knew, and by the way, they weren't great against Florida in the swamp. You could argue Florida did it.
Georgia wasn't great against Georgia Tech.
No, they weren't.
Alabama wasn't great against Auburn.
Everyone plays with their food in a rivalry game. Everyone knows that. But if I'm the committee and you knew that the backup quarterback was an issue, they boxed themselves in, putting Florida State 4, moving them up to 4 when they had already had them at 5. And so now if you're a Florida State fan, you're like, well, we got moved up to 4 last week after a win. We're 4. We won the conference champion. We're still 4, right?
We're 4.
Why would you just keep him 5th?
We're 4 with Tate Rodemaker, who's going to be back for the bowl game. We are 4 with him. He's going to play in the bowl game. And I agree with you. Listen, you can make an argument. If you said, hey, pick a side, I would feel really comfortable with arguing with the 4 that they chose. I think it's very, very simple. And it's just the unfortunate part that someone gets left out. I think the people it's living in the football world. Like when you are a coach, when you're a player, and you're looking there and you're saying, okay, who judges the best teams? You know, Kirby Smart had a comment today. Ask the NFL draft board who the best team is. We have the best players.
He's not wrong.
He's not. But they didn't win.
They didn't win.
They didn't win.
Florida State's loaded with NFL guys
at some point, okay, you know, like, okay, well, let's go to the Vegas. Who would Vegas put here? Well, why play the game? Because, right, I mean, Vegas picked Georgia. And they lost. And I'll bet you have to play the game. And so the best teams win. They find ways to win. And the greatest thing you could say about Florida State this year, they always found a way to win. Alabama didn't. Alabama lost by double digits at home. Florida State never did that, because you can't say, tell me about Florida State's loss. You can't. They didn't. They did it all right. And so it's hard to, as a football person, it's hard to justify a team that never lost in a Power 5 at that level doesn't get in. If you said, hey, Cincinnati a couple years ago went undefeated, I don't know how they got in, because if you would have said, are they one of the 4 best teams? No, they would have been probably an average team in most conferences.
But as you know, being an SEC head coach at 2 spots, Mississippi State and Florida, if you're in the committee room and you're sitting there and you're looking at Conference Championship Saturday and you're saying, which one of these Conference Championship games has the 2 better teams? Alabama getting over number 1, much more impressive than number 4 getting by Louisville.
The SEC gets the credit. Listen, the league has been dominant for the last almost 20 years now. I mean, just dominated college football for 20 years. I mean, their argument this year, hey, the Pac-12's better, finally better. There's a league better than the SEC for the first time as a league as a whole. You can make that argument possibly this year from top to bottom. The Pac-12 is better. So I think the SEC does get the benefit of the doubt. And I think you look at the matchup yesterday. There were 2 primo matchups on the weekend.
Oregon and Washington.
And Alabama and Georgia. Those were the primo matchups. Get the most attention. Both winners are in the playoffs.
And the best team argument, once again, it's still a little bit frustrating saying these are the 4 best teams, because the other argument that was made by the committee is, well, hey, who would a team not want to play? Who do you not want to play, right? And a lot of teams wouldn't want to play Georgia. To be totally frank, a lot of teams would say, well, Georgia's one of the 4 best. So then put Georgia in, and then if you do that, then who's out, right? So, like, why is Georgia not in that top 4? And the answer is, well, because they lost to Alabama, or they lost conference championship. Well, Florida State didn't lose. And didn't lose and they won the conference. So why is Georgia, if it's about best teams, and we're saying that, well, people don't want to play Georgia, why is Georgia not in it?
I go back to the year TCU was left out of the college football playoff. In the penultimate rankings, they were ranked 3rd. With their last game of the season having to play, at the time, a really bad Iowa State team. If you're TCU, you're thinking, well, we're 3rd now. We've got Iowa State. We're going to win that game, so we're in. They were left out.
Yeah.
And that's why the weekly rankings sometimes matter more than you think.
Dan, we have made it to Monday. What an incredible weekend. What an incredible season it has been. Still a few more games left, and we'll tell you all about it here. Manning Monday was last week. We're going to have some fun today and hear from you and some of the top guests in the country. Let's get to some headlines right now. So there will not be a 30-game winning streak. Georgia broke the record, and then it ended for the Dogs. 27-24 in an epic SEC championship game, and there has been a lot of screaming and hollering ever since. So, for all of the predictions, this is how we ended up. Michigan, Washington, then 2 SEC schools, Texas and Alabama. Florida State 5, somehow, I yet to get an explanation for this. Georgia is the number 6 team in the country. On the Rose Bowl, late afternoon on January 1st, Michigan and Alabama. They played before in a bowl game. Alabama won a couple of years ago. The other game in the Sugar, Washington and Texas. So a lot has happened. Many people saying good call. Many people are calling their congressman. So this is a headline in the Washington Post. Jerry Brewer saying it's a ridiculous stiff arm for Florida State. I got my candle lit right here. Dan Wetzel saying Florida State was wrong, but it's not just the committee's fault. Yeah, you know, Dan makes a good point. And remember what a couple of years ago it came out that the college football playoff was going to expand to 12 games in 2023. 24, 23. But 3 commissioners from the Big Ten, Kevin Warren, no longer there. From the Pac-12, George Kliavkoff, he's still there in name only. And Jim Phillips of the ACC were more than just perturbed at what they perceived as a power grab by Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner. So they said, no way. No, we had George Kliavkoff on the show, and they said we're not doing it. And finally, through intermediaries and some good work from Dr. Keenum of Mississippi State, who's the head of the CFP Management Committee, they decided to do it next year. All I'm saying is this: had we had a playoff this year like it was supposed to be, Florida State would have gotten in and would be playing Liberty in the first round. Get your phone calls at 855-242-7285. There is one caller in particular I am eager to hear from today. Who do you think it is? No, it's not the usual suspects. I mean, he's a regular caller. You've been working this show for too long, Randy. Randy broke the code, and the Vegas money line right now says Darryl will not call. Let's start with Andre in the ATL. Hello, Andre.
I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm an LSU fan. But it was a great game, Coach, and it could have went either way. But Nick Saban has snatched the mantle back from Kirby, Coach. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you know, I think that's really the part of the story with all this fake outrage from FSU administrators and
Canale, Danny Canale.
Yeah, and I'm talking about people that matter, not straw men who try to make a living by likes on Facebook. I think it's really been the big part of it is that Nick Saban did put that stiff arm to Kirby Smart.
But, Coach, you should have heard Canale this morning. Oh, man. He probably was the one calling his congressman down there in Florida. So, Coach, what grade do you give Brian Kelly down in Baton Rouge right now, Coach?
I gave him a good grade. I think the biggest mistake I have with what Brian Kelly did this year happened early. I think they flat out blew it on the defensive side of the ball. They made a couple of moves that blew up in their face.
Right. Is Daniel going to win the Heisman, Coach? What you think?
It's funny. I spent about an hour today trying to get my ballot in because it never for some reason, the computer system here does not match.
Who'd you vote for, Coach?
I voted. They always say you're not allowed to tell anyone who you voted for. So Andre, how long have we known each other? How long have we known each other?
Oh, about 15 years.
Okay, I am going to tell you this in confidence, and I don't want anybody to know that I voted for Jaden Daniels.
There it is. Don't tell nobody, Coach.
Please, that's off the record.
Is Dare going to call in today, Coach, or what do you think?
What's that?
Is Dare going to call in? Or you
I don't think Darryl has the guts to call in today because he's been running his mouth for 3 years, and I don't. I mean, there are some people that will show up, rain or shine. Darryl's not one of them.
Have a good day. Thanks for taking my
Thanks,
call,
buddy. Good to
Coach.
hear from you. Stacy is in Birmingham. We saw Stacy the other night.
Paul, I enjoyed the heck out of you Friday, Paul. But
That was
Paul,
fun.
I need a minute for me to get. I need a minute to talk about this, Paul. Chris Doran came on to your show and said, "Now he didn't come on to your show. I'm sorry. He came on ESPN and said that he is an idiot for doubting Bama." And you had Terry Honor on here a couple of weeks ago, and he said, "Paul, we hear what people say, but we don't forget." Do you remember that?
Yeah, and by the way, when we talk to him today, that subject will definitely come up.
Well, let me tell you this, Paul. Stacy from Birmingham don't forget either. So let me tell you a couple of people who have put their foot in their mouth, and they better be in witness protection at this point. The number 6 person I want to start with is Dan Mullen. Sir,
Hey, hold on just 1 second, Stacy. Can I was on with Dan yesterday.
Okay.
And I'm not sure I've ever seen anybody with more diarrhea of the mouth than Dan Mullen.
Well, he got it.
I mean, I used to think he was really funny, and I don't know what got into his Wheaties yesterday morning, but man, was he rambling?
Well, he is funny. He's super funny. Let me tell you how funny he is. He 0-11 against the GOAT. So shut up, Dan Mullen. Your opinion don't even matter to us. And let me move on to the next person, number 5, Booger Mac.
Oh my goodness.
My advice to you, Booger, is join the rest of the world crying, okay? The 4th
Get back in the Booger Mobile.
Yes, sir. Back and drive fast. Now, number 4 is Michael Bratt.
Michael Bratt.
Michael, only thing I'm going to say to you, Bratt, is give my man Larry all his bill you owe him. The 3rd person, Paul, I got a couple more people. The 3rd person is 4th and 31, Mr. AJ. By the way, he's still in Jordan Hare searching for the ball. The 2nd person I want to talk to, Paul, is Jim Harbaugh. Did you see his face reaction when they found out they had to play Alabama?
I mean, he said, "Man, I wish they hadn't caught us on that sign stealing thing until after this game."
Well, Paul, I tell you, Connor Stallion ain't gonna be able to help him this time, baby. And the number 1 person, Paul, who you think the number 1 person on my list is, Paul?
Well, who's missing? I'm trying to think.
Well, here we go. Mr. Pinstripe himself, also known as JK.
Oh, JK. I forgot about that.
Paul,
I forgot.
He said, Stacy, he came on the show and said, "Stacy, one thing we gonna have in common is you and I gonna be sitting at home on the couch watching the playoffs." Didn't he say that?
He did say that.
Well, Mr. Pinstripe, and I'm calling him Pinstripe because they going to the Pinstripe Bowl. Rutgers in Miami, baby. Rutgers in Miami. Let me tell you something.
Rutgers in Miami. Are there any tickets available?
Yes, plenty of tickets available because ain't nobody going.
You can buy your own section for that game.
Hey, Paul, he's the biggest fool of them all, Paul. He's the big. Alabama ain't gonna get in. Alabama ain't gonna get in with JK.
Well, Stacy, come on, be careful what you say. I mean, putting him ahead of Bratton. I mean, we all said stupid things. I'll throw myself at the mercy of the train. I mean, but at some point, you have to change gears, and a lot of us did realize. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story, Stacy. I was talking to Joe Tessitore today, and Joe was on our show a couple weeks ago, and he was trying to convince me more than a few weeks ago what a great job Tommy Reese had done. And I was slow to the party, in full admission of being wrong. And I feel great. I mean, Joe kept saying you don't see it, and sometimes you don't see it as well from a different view. Joe knows all these coaches. He sits with them. He talks ball with them, and I give him credit for being one of the first people to jump on to what Tommy Rees and Nick Saban were doing. And I also want to thank. I don't think enough credit has gone to Kevin Steele, the defensive coordinator. Sure, Tavarius Robinson has played a big role in what that defense has done, but Kevin Steele was somewhat maligned after a few weeks, and what he has done is he has taught that team how to tackle again, something that Pete Golding never could do. We'll be right back. More to come after this break. Let's check in with Dominic in Jacksonville. Hello, Dominic.
Fall roll time, man. My boy Legend gonna kill it today. JK need to keep his Alabama name out of his mouth. Paul, I think we gonna win it all, Paul, and it's gonna be Nick Saban's greatest season coaching job he ever did. And what all the people that criticize Jalen Monroe and Tom Rees from Alabama, I'm calling out some of my friends as well, saying that he wasn't our quarterback and this and that. Where all the people at, Paul?
I don't know. You tell me.
Paul, all I know is Michigan don't want to see us. The reaction yesterday was just hilarious. But I'm waiting for JK to come and call in, Daryl with their big mouth, all the sorry Georgia Bulldog fans. That's why they didn't want us in the playoff last year, Paul, because we was the best team. We should have went last year, and they wanted to play TCU. Who, Georgia fan, who's y'all daddy? Nick Saban is y'all daddy. Roll damn tide, Paul.
Lan is in Cocoa Beach, Florida. Hello, Lan.
Yeah, hey, how you doing, Paul? Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Yeah, listen, I'm disappointed about what happened, how the outcome came out with Florida State not being selected. With all the dynamics and everything, I feel, as a coach myself, I want the kids to earn it on the field, and they should have the opportunity to try and defend go for a championship. But, I kept hearing all day yesterday, the eye test. So Florida State passed the eye test. And it is really kind of like a similar situation. If you go back, Paul, and I listened to you in October when Alabama played South Florida when they played the Bulls in South Florida.
Sure.
They looked at horrendous. They beat South Florida 17-3. You know what the score at halftime? Now, remind you now, Alabama was the 5th-ranked team in the country. You know what the score at halftime was? 3-3.
Yeah, it was terrible.
And South Florida was playing with a backup QB at the time. And they ended up winning the game 17-3. And on top of that, Alabama didn't fall in the rankings after that game. But Florida State goes out and win in a ACC championship game, and they fall in the rankings. Tell me,
well, Lan, it's too complicated to try to compare what happened then versus now. There's so many elements to it, and I will argue until my final day that this really wasn't a debate about Florida State and Alabama. I don't think it was that close in the committee's mind. In fact, I strongly believe that Florida State was their 6th pick when they went to bed Saturday night, and then they turned it around Sunday morning if they did not want Georgia to be part of the conversation. This is a committee. You're a coach, right? You've been in committee meeting rooms, have you not?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what happens. Everybody has a strong opinion. Everybody has logic, and then one guy says something, and then a woman says this, and then you try to coalesce around a theme, and I think that's how we ended up with this decision. I think the whole process is beyond convoluted. It always has been, but some of the things that have been said are just completely untrue. I was flipping around last night. I just simply had enough of the debate, and I was curious what in the world was going on in Israel with the hostages, so I flipped on CNN, and they have a commentator who used to cover the White House named Jim Acosta, and he was interviewing Rachel Nichols. And Rachel Nichols said, who used to work at ESPN, by the way, she said the only reason they took Alabama was for money. Like, the money's already in. These things are already bought and paid for. It doesn't matter whether 19 million people or 23 million people watch the CFP. It's the bank's already shut down, and this guy Acosta started railing about Alabama getting preferential treatment. I mean, this is a guy that works at CNN, accusing someone else of bias. John is in Louisville.
Oh, that's a good story. I remember Acosta used to be that White House reporter that whined every day. But, well, the dynasty is dead, and it's not you, Paul. That's good to hear. And I look forward to seeing Georgia and Florida State in the Crybaby Bowl sponsored by Kleenex. Then they can whine a little more after that. But the real loser, the one we should feel sorry for, is a Iowa bar called the X-Golf. They sponsored free beer till Iowa would score, so I think they're still giving out beer at this time.
What wasn't the over and under 2.5?
Yeah, I know.
For halftime or something?
It was a scrimmage, total scrimmage. But, the outrage and whining, it could have been avoided if they simply, were a little more succinct in saying it's a playoff. It's not an invitational tournament. It's about the 4 best teams, not about the most deserving. And then they wouldn't be whining. But are you going to be out at the Rose Bowl?
Yes.
I will be too. I'll have to introduce my daughter. But she has this thing with the phone. And so, over Thanksgiving, I was saying over dinner, we should go see Napoleon, the movie. And she's talking and doing this. And then she said, okay, I got 4 seats. Here they are. The time is yada yada. So last night I was talking to her. I said, we should go to the Rose Bowl. And she said, well, yeah, yes, in the nice restaurants, all that. I said, yeah, you can see the parade. And about 5 minutes later, she says, I've got the seats. And I said, well, I'll reimburse you or, sell you some money. She says, well, you don't have to. It's your Christmas present. I said, oh, wow. Really? And then she said, it's your next 3 Christmas presents. That should tell you how the tickets are going.
But by the way, though, John, if you're interested, for some reason you don't go, I can get you some box seats for the Orange Bowl.
Right.
And I will even offer a bonus $100 bill for you to go, because we're trying to fill up a couple of sections. More phone calls here. Evelyn, thank you. Evelyn.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Evelyn, we're doing great. Thank you.
Good. Happy Monday. I just wanted to say something. I think everybody has kind of lost their minds a little bit when it comes to what they want, and we have a committee for a reason, and they leave people out every year. It's just the way it works. And when you compare who Alabama played compared to who other people played, the strength of schedule, there was no way that they should be left out. And I'm very proud that they got through. But what I wanted to say was this. Since everybody seems to be so upset, maybe we should come up with an award for every single team. I was kind of thinking we could get a football wearing a baby diaper and a pacifier as a participant, so that they'll feel like they got something too.
Evelyn, I could not agree more. Hey, thank you so much. That was fantastic. Matt in Austin, good afternoon.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
We're doing great, thank you.
Well, I want to talk about Texas, but first I have to ask you, it's really too bad in one sense that Michigan didn't wind up with Florida State, because then we could have called it the Ethics in College Football Bowl.
Oh, my goodness.
Given the history of both programs, let's reward people who do the right thing.
What was the name of that? Remember that thing 25 years ago? What was that big scandal they had down there? I'll think of it in a second. My mind is.
What, SMU?
No, at FSU. All the Gator fans called it Free Shoes University.
Free Shoes University.
Yeah, FSU. Yeah.
Free Shoes University, right? Well, moving to the Longhorns, we had to listen to a couple of things over the weekend. One was people from A&M saying Texas shouldn't have got in because they were deriding how bad Oklahoma State was. The funny thing is they now have to play Oklahoma State, right? So wouldn't it be funny if Oklahoma State mopped the floor with A&M? And then the other thing we had to hear was all the people from Oklahoma, talking about, how they got the short shrift and they beat Texas. My response to that is just beat Kansas and, Oklahoma State. That's all the Sooners needed to do. And I'm looking forward to being reunited with their old friends at A&M and the SEC. So I just want to leave all the Aggies listening with my fondest memory. Justin Tucker, it's good.
That's
and
great.
It's goodbye to A&M. See you, Paul.
That is funny. Thank you very, very much. Rock is in Texas as well. Good afternoon, Rock.
Hey, good afternoon, Paul. I have a question I'd like to get your thoughts on, and then I'll hang up and listen. I wonder how the committee would have voted had the teams been swapped. Instead of FSU, it would have been Clemson.
My gut feeling is Clemson probably would have survived that. And there's so many reasons why FSU was left out. And I mentioned the commissioner's issue, and by the way, that should not have anything to do with it. But would somebody ask the FSU president or the FSU athletic director who've been putting these statements out, like the university has just suffered some unspeakable tragedy, what they were doing back in August? Does anyone remember that Board of Trustees meeting when FSU administrators and trustees acted like a fifth grade food fight in the school cafeteria? When they stood on top of tables and talked about how bad the ACC was and how they were better than the ACC and that they were essentially open for bid, and we all know what they were trying to say. They wanted to get in the SEC. I can't believe people have forgotten that. And then we had Drew Weatherford on here. He's a former quarterback member of the trustees who they trashed the ACC, and ultimately the ACC did them in. I mean, how many times have you seen some talking head on ESPN? I heard this all day yesterday. Well, the ACC was 6-4 against the SEC. Like, I'm trying to understand why that matters. And do you realize two of those wins? One was a trash win by Miami over Texas A&M. Does anyone know what the other deciding win was that we haven't thought about? Back on September 9th, Wake Forest beat Vanderbilt. Wake Forest over Vandy. Hey, I'll give it to FSU. That win over LSU was significant, epic. That win at the time over Clemson in overtime at Death Valley really mattered. The only problem was that Clemson ended up losing 4 games. Didn't help at all. LSU was, by the committee's own ranking, the 5th best team in the SEC. Only 5 of the top 13 were from the SEC. I never heard that from the RG3s and the Booger McFarlands and all these other people. And on top of that, Florida hurt them more than anything because Florida was terrible this year, and that win didn't count. And Louisville lost to Kentucky.
All the dogs are counting down, about to put the anchor down. Hotty toddy, who's it gonna be? Cowbells and swamp, the Aggies wrong. There's nothing like the SEC. The weekend's full of surprise. From Williams, Rice, and Death Valley. On the Fine Mom Show, Paul's on the road. If he don't get the best of me,
Where's Paul? The hell, I don't know. Coach Paul Fireball.
Needlers up on Rocky Top. The Razorbacks are hard to stop. War Eagles soaring in the wind.
Let me talk, Danny. Okay, go.
Tigers rocking in Missoula. Wildcats are grinning too. Talk about the tide that's rolling in. The weekend's full of surprise.
How you doing there, Paul Fireball?
Upsets to rivalries. On the Fine Mom Show, heads are gonna roll. If they don't get the best of me, we'll call
Chips are good that way.
Can't make
beat them.
I might call you 2, 3, 4, 5 times for the day over with.
Hey, welcome back. We have reached the second hour. I don't know about you, but it's been a lot of fun today. Maybe it's just my imagination. And I just want to piggyback on one of the points that was being made. Georgia. There is no system for all the fake outrage from Danny Cannell and his ilk. There is simply no justification for putting the University of Georgia as the number 6 best team in America. I mean, in another world, probably would have got a posse and fought hard to get them in the tournament, but it was a difficult choice because we really were playing best, most deserving, some combination of that. And Alabama beat Georgia, so they literally had to get in. But there have been countless years when Georgia would have easily gotten in. They just were unlucky. They were unlucky for a couple of reasons. That Florida State didn't get beat, or Texas. It's a legitimate conversation. This is a really good Georgia team that lost one game, and there's not a lot of desire here to go over some of the calls in that game by the officiating. That's supposedly the best crew you're going to get, isn't it? So, but there were a couple of calls that I think everybody knows and watched, and really were pretty hard to digest. That doesn't matter, though. Georgia should not have put itself in a situation where it came down to a non-call or a bad call. They won the game. They won the games they were supposed to, except they didn't win the most important one, the one they needed to get into the playoffs. Cat Daddy's up next.
Big Paul, greetings and salutations during this festive time of year. And I agree with you 100% of your monologue there. But listen, there are a million stories in the capital city, and I heard about 200,000 of them today on the college football committee's thing of stubbing Florida State. Ain't had but 2 happy people come in here. The Lamar and Bubba, they're 2 boys from Alabama, and they from Barrow Bend, Alabama, same hometown of Frank Howard of Clemson. That's how I remember who they are. They come in here today, grinning like possums. Didn't say a word. I'd asked them what everybody's been asking me all day long. Y'all won on a Hail Mary pass, and Florida State wins with a third string quarterback. And y'all don't think Florida State deserves to be in there? They just grinned like possums and walked on out the door. But that's been the premise of most people, Mr. Feinbaum. You take an 18, 19-year-old kid like a Florida State player, and you tell him, son, your quarterback's hurt, so you probably ain't got a chance to win, so you can't play in this playoff. However, they won with a third-string quarterback. What a great story it would have been if Florida State had been allowed in and then won the whole championship with a third-string quarterback.
Yeah, you know what, Cat Daddy, are you still at work?
No, sir, I'm home.
For you to make that statement, you must have been drinking moonshine today as opposed to trying to sell it.
No, sir.
There ain't no way on any earth that Florida State was going to win at 1 game, let alone 2 games in this tournament.
And how do we know that, Mr. Feinbaum?
Because I do know that. There are some things you know. And I watched them play against Florida and against Louisville, one average team, one slightly better than average team, and they could barely score a point. Put them up against a defense like Michigan or Alabama or Texas or Washington, and it would have been laughable. But thanks for trying. I do appreciate it. Bubba is up next in North Carolina. Hello, Bubba.
What's shaking, Paul? Randy! Hey, let me tell you what the committee did, Paul. They did all that they could do. They did the only option they had is to go with the 4 teams they picked. Number 1, they're counting on Georgia stomping Florida State in their bowl game, so will exonerate them on leaving them out. But you can't sit here and tell me I don't think Michigan could beat Georgia. I don't think Washington could beat Ohio State. I still don't think we had the 4 best teams in the country. Georgia really got slighted worse than Florida State because they're capable of winning it all.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they would, but I'm saying
You know,
they're
Ohio
capable
State,
of it.
I don't think Ohio State could have won it all based on what I saw from them. But there's no.
No, but do you think Washington could beat them?
No.
Do you think Michigan could beat Georgia?
No.
No, and they do, but they could not have Georgia with 1 loss and Alabama with 1 loss in the top 4. The
Bob, I've said this ad infinitum today, but I just can't help saying it. The Florida State wasn't that great. They really weren't. They were not great without their best player, just like I don't think Alabama would have been a threat without Jalen Milroe.
Absolutely not. Jalen Milroe developed into the player that he is. And honestly, if Alabama and Georgia play 4 Saturdays from now, I'm not so sure Georgia wouldn't beat them.
No, but I agree. I mean, I think I know Alabama's happy not to see Georgia again, but for whatever reason on that stage, and you can do all the psychology you want, Alabama just seems to have something over Georgia. And
absolutely,
yeah.
And I've got to give kudos. What does I-Man call them? The Bammers. I want to congratulate the Bammers because.
Well, I forgot about I-Man. I wonder if he and Darryl are commiserating.
From the beginning of the season, they have came a long way as a football squad.
Hey, let me tell you a quick story before we go to break. Everybody said, man, that was the longest lunch I've ever had in my life. About 9 years ago, I had a book signing in Columbus, Georgia. And it was not really much of a book signing. I mean, I was supposed to be in Montgomery and Auburn, and this guy in New York said, let's put you in Columbus for a book signing. I'm going, bad idea, but I did it like at 10 o'clock in the morning at some mall. And afterwards, I had a little bit of time before I get to the next book signing in Auburn. So I had lunch with, ready for this? I-Man and Darryl. I-Man and Darryl. It's not like I've had a lot of lunches with people and they're nice and you forget it 3 days later. 9 years later, I still remember that. Given the choice now of having lunch with them or swallowing a cyanide capsule, I may have taken the cyanide capsule. We'll be right back. Continue with more of your phone calls, and Randy is up next. Hello, Randy. Here, Randy. We'll try Jacob. Hey, Jacob.
Hey, Paul.
Good afternoon.
I just wanted to talk about the college football playoff situation and with putting Alabama in. I mean, the way I see it, like, if you put Alabama in over Florida State because we're choosing the best teams here, Florida State was undefeated, I don't see why Georgia shouldn't go in over Washington. Because, I mean, Washington's undefeated, but the SEC is different. And Alabama only won by 3, and the game could have gone either way. So I wanted to see what you thought about Georgia not getting in.
Well, Jacob, I think it's a good argument. But what happens in these situations is we get hung up on narratives that somehow get created, and for all the rhetoric about this committee, they voted like a committee. And committees take a little bit from here and a little bit from there, and maybe there was one guy on the committee who was fighting to get Alabama in over Florida State, and to compromise, make sure he got that accomplished, he may have backed away from Georgia. So, and Georgia, unfortunately for them, picked the worst day of the year, not only to lose, but to not look like it the same team that we had seen all year long. And I wonder, too, and I don't think it was a factor, but I would have really liked to have seen Georgia play Oklahoma, because I think it would have, maybe somebody in that room would have said, you know what, I really like what I saw there. Instead, Georgia, it was dominant against Tennessee, but Tennessee faltered down the stretch and struggled against Missouri for a while. It really, I think Georgia got penalized for a completely meaningless game against Georgia Tech, where Kirby Smart rested some of his players. And I'll raise one more question, and I don't know the answer to this, but did Georgia really need to bring Brock Bowers back when it did? And initially, when he got hurt at the Vanderbilt game, the talk was, let's save him for the SEC championship game. Did Brock Bowers affect any of the games that he played in a significant way? Was he necessary against Missouri or Ole Miss? What if Kirby Smart had held him back for that one game? Would it have been different? I mean, he was good at times against Alabama, but clearly he was banged up. I mean, we were on the field right before the game doing our show, and he looked pretty good, but as the game wore on, the results spoke for themselves. James is back. James is up next in Auburn, Alabama.
Good afternoon, Paul and Roll Tide.
Hey there.
Hey, a quick question. I know back in 2009, when Alabama played Texas Pasadena, I'm not sure what company it was, they had all 5 pieces of the end zone, if you recall that.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Is that something they'll do again, or is that just like a one-off thing?
Well, I think they were. I mean, I don't know. They changed the field a lot, so that may have been part of it. I don't know if they'll do that for this. That was also the final game of the year. I assume this will be. I can't imagine what else would be happening at the Rose Bowl, but I have no idea. I'll see if we can try to get you an answer on that. Patrick is up next. Hello, Patrick.
Hey, Paul. So I was just wondering, with the committee taking Alabama over Florida State based on one player, do you think this will have any impact in the 12-team playoff and the future of the playoff when the committee selects their teams? Because by the way that it seems, Jordan Travis is the best player in college football if he's that impactful to Florida State.
I think every year is a different situation. One year can affect, and I was with Stephen A. earlier, and I was somewhat joking that his rant about TCU last week may have impacted people, but it did create a narrative, and I think that's important. And what TCU may have affected this year, and next year won't matter very much, though, because what we'll be debating next year are really, there'll be a big debate about the first four, or how many get next year? The first two or the first four? I'm trying to. So the top four. That's where the big debate will be. Will this team or that team, do they deserve a bye? And then finally the bottom of it. I don't think the bottom is going to be particularly compelling. Where would the debate have been this year? Among which we're talking about? It's not necessarily number 13, because that's not how they'll do it. But we would be talking about 3 lost teams. The LSU might have been in the conversation next year for do they get in? Would Ole Miss have gotten in this year? I don't remember. So I mean, you'd have a conversation about Ole Miss versus somebody else. I mean, I don't think there'll be particularly compelling debates unless you're one of those on the cut line. Steve is up next in Macon, Georgia. Hello, Steve.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
We're doing great.
First off, I just want to tip my houndstooth hat to Alabama. I've been a Georgia fan since 1960. I thought that was a great ball game. I thought the Washington-Oregon game was great. The other 3 absolutely were terrible. Iowa may have the worst offense I have ever seen. But getting back, it's kind of ironic. You know what the stadium they played in Atlanta's called?
The Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Yeah, and you see where Nick Saban's group bought 2 auto dealerships down in Miami 2 weeks ago for $750 million.
Yeah.
So he pretty much owns that place. And
yeah, I mean, right now, I'm wondering if Nick Saban isn't more interested in being a hedge fund manager than the coach at Alabama with all the deals he has going.
Well, I think being in the auto business is better than being in a hedge fund.
Well, he picked a good time to go in automotive.
No, he absolutely did. But what were your just thoughts on that game? I thought it was very evenly matched. I think Alabama ought to be glad we were number one. We go from 1 to 6. They go from 4 to 8. And to me, that was the national championship I saw Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, after the first drive, I thought Georgia was in a position they could to be dominant. And we'll talk to Terry Arnold here in a few minutes, and we'll certainly let him tell you how the Georgia defense, how the Alabama defense prepared.
Well, I think they beat us at the line of scrimmage. I think you're right about Brock Bowers wasn't 100%, but Alabama took him out of the game. They had him.
Well, they did, but I think there was a reluctance though by Carson Beck to. I mean, I think Carson Beck was not. It was not the same Beck to Bowers that we saw, let's say, in the Auburn game, and those are minor things, but they also play a big role. And I don't want to be a cliche machine here, Steve, but when you have great teams, and these are two great teams, it comes down to a handful of plays. The end of the second half, was that the right call or not? Was that a catch, a missed field goal when momentum changes, a stop on third down? I mean, these are the most prosaic things you could talk about, but Alabama made the plays. Georgia didn't. We'll be right back. Bobby is in North Carolina. Hello, Bobby.
Hello, Paul. How you doing today?
We are doing well, thank you.
I'm not a pull for any certain team. I pull for SEC football. I love it.
Yes, sir.
And but I am a fan of Nick Saban. And not only has he brought this team back this year, he's resurrected the career of other coaches. Where do you think Steve Sarkisian would be today without Nick Saban?
Well, I'll simply relate a question that I asked Nick Saban on September 9th. I asked him, as we stood out there during our Saturday morning show, about some comments that Sarkisian had made earlier in the week, where he said, I would not be here without Nick Saban. And Saban got very emotional talking about it and how much he cared for Sarkisian. And I'll offer this. I was on the sideline with Sarkisian in Tampa a week after Lane Kiffin was fired, and he was not ready for that moment. He was very shaky, and I think some of the calls he made in that game aided and abetted Clemson winning the national championship, but he got through it. He had some moments that have never been discussed at Alabama that Nick Saban helped him with. And Nick Saban has done that for other people throughout his career, but I think that might be, of all the rehab stories that we joke about, the most important of his career, and we've got a reasonable chance of seeing a rematch in a couple of weeks.
That's right. He might wind up playing him. Okay, thank you, Paul.
Advice to Sark, you do not want to meet Saban in a rematch. I promise you that. Clem is up next in Georgia. Hello, Clem.
Hey, Paul. How you doing?
Well, thank you.
Just wanted to say real quick that Jermaine Burton is a flat-out punk for that little charade he pulled in the Georgia end zone. Did you see that?
I saw it.
Yeah, I just saw that was just totally classless, unnecessary, to just disgrace your former team like that, people that have put time and invested in you. What a classless little punk.
Well, Clem, listen, I understand the frustration. Jermaine Burton, to me, is someone who made a risky decision. He walked away from a national championship. He's ended up being a dynamic contributor to Alabama, and I don't want to go. He didn't do anything other than act like a young person, and I would not have endorsed it. I would not have recommended it. I would not have told him to ever do anything like that. I think the ultimate character is sometimes revealed, but I'm also not that upset about it. And you're welcome to be upset. You're welcome to spend a lot of energy and angst on something that is not relevant whatsoever at the end of the day. So we will end this conversation with a disagreement. Larry is in Shelby. Hello, Larry.
What's up, Paul?
Hey, Larry. I saw
buddy.
your buddy in Atlanta, and I never got a chance to talk to him, Rich. He left me something as well, and I wanted to thank him. But there were so many people around, so let him know that, will you?
I will. He loves you, man. He does. He's been sick a lot. He's had cancer, so he whooped it. So
I am deeply sorry I wasn't able to spend any time, but it was a chaotic scene over there.
Oh yeah, he knows. He knows. He loves you, man. He just don't talk on the show much. Hey, you know what? I got a bolo out, man. You know what that is?
Yes, sir.
Be on the lookout for the brat. Dun, dun, dun. I want the brat. I want my damn money, brat. I want you to put that damn money where that big mouth was, or that alligator mouth running that jack. Come on, brat. You got my money?
Yeah, I would say now that we're creeping toward the end of the year, you have simply humiliated the brat.
I have kicked him to the curb, Jack. Listen, that boy won't even be able to teach Sunday school class. I mean, I slapped him around so bad his mama won't
Never heard that
recognize
one
him.
before.
I snatched his drawers down and spanked that ass so crimson. Wah! That's right, Brad. So you can't come on this show.
We are officially
You and that
declaring
other Mike Griffin,
you the winner over Brad.
Well, Saban, Kirby Smart has passed Saban. I seen your look, boy. You like to fell out in that booth. when Griffin said Kirby Smart had passed.
Yeah, another guy we have not heard from today, the Griffmeister.
Yeah, the Grifter. Hey, Kirby Smart has passed everybody. He's gone past Saban. Saban's in the dust. He's all behind. Kirby Smart's the king. I will give Kirby respect, but I believe if they had played Oklahoma, they'd be in the playoffs. I really do. Don't you?
Yeah,
that's
right. This politically correct, extreme pity party for Florida State may have had something to do with it, but I would have liked to have seen the game.
Yeah.
Larry, when Alabama won that game, let's take us inside the Larry from Shelby cam. What was going on?
Let me tell you, I'm here by myself. I got my hats what I want them. I got all my Bama stuff out beside me. I got my beer in the cooler ready. I got 24 Coors Light. I changed from Bud Light. I'm going to take a chance on a heart attack. I got my 24 in there. I'm ready. Boom, Georgia runs that touchdown. Oh, Then it was, oh, man. When that clock ticked down, when he run that first down, man, I went running through this house like I did every time, screaming like a crazy man. Open my door, sliding glass door. We won! We won! I mean, I loved it, man. My adrenaline was so pumped by them. I don't tell you, man, I'm lucky I didn't fall out. I didn't even take my blood pressure, but it was up. I loved it, man. It's just awesome to get payback on people's asses, you know. And I loved you sticking with the Tide, man. You stuck with us.
Well, hey, Larry, you be well, and we will talk to you very soon. Let's check in with I-Man next.
Well, good afternoon there, Paul Feinbaum. How's it going?
Very well, thank you.
I mean, we've heard every talking head all across the country since last Friday. Lots happened since Friday. Let's start at Friday. You know, I was sitting there watching the ball game, Washington, Oregon, and Bo Nix was big. He was a big boy at Auburn. Everybody loved him. Things went sideways. He goes to Oregon, has a nice career, and he's sitting there on the sideline with a towel on his head. It was all about him. And, you know, he should have been up on the sidelines cheering his defense on doing something, but it was all about him. So when Bo left Auburn, it didn't hurt my feelings none. Then I'm watching the game Saturday, and we just felt like when Texas whooped that ass over the mullet man, that they were in. We just felt that. So we had two. That was Washington and of course Texas. You know, the Alabama-Georgia game kind of reminded me of the Auburn-Georgia game a few years back when Auburn beat two #1 teams in the year.
Right.
And they go to the championship game, and Kerryon Johnson, I mean, he couldn't do anything with his left arm. I mean, Bob Doe could at least hold pin.
Hey, I mean, listen, I don't mean to interrupt the State of the Union here, but why don't you get right to the present day, okay?
Well, I'm getting there. I mean, you've interviewed all these people all day long. You knew the questions. You knew the
But it just sounds like you're
obfuscating
obfuscating and trying to move past your hurt and all the trash you've been talking about Alabama.
What hurt?
And Nick
What
Saban.
hurt? I have no hurt.
What did he say, Randy? The little feller. The little feller.
The one thing that everybody, don't talk over me. Don't mess up a good call. The one thing everybody says, oh, that's a great interview, Paul. I mean, you always do a great interview. But you've heard all these people's comments, so you already have baited questions. So they can repeat the same nonsense today that they did all day yesterday, all night, Saturday night. Why are we listening to those people when we've heard all their opinions and they don't damn matter? Florida State, anyhow, Auburn didn't get in because they had a hurt guy. Georgia kind of run roughshod, and it happened to Georgia, and I hate that because I do believe Georgia's one of the 4 best teams in the country, or the 5 best teams. The problem was number 4. And I tell you, that Kentucky win over Louisville just killed Florida State, and I hate that for them, but the Alabama, with the projections, I could not see how you were going to keep Alabama out. I mean, they beat the conference's, or the committee's #1 team, and I don't think they'll go far. I think Michigan will kick the living hell out of them. But now I'm obfuscating. I mean, we're talking present day. I mean, you don't have anything to say. And you know, last year Nick Saban said, we would have been favored over everybody. We'd have been favored. Well, you're not favored now, Nick. Silence?
I was actually, Larry, I apologize. I was multitasking, and I missed I-man's
Larry
statement.
said he was running. Larry said he was running around like a crazy man. Like a crazy man? Hell, he is a crazy man. Now, Paul Feinbaum, for Damn Eagle, for Michigan, you have a good day.
Wow. That's what you call what weak sauce. I mean, that was just. I mean, for one of the Mount Rushmore callers to the show, didn't you expect more on the day after? Didn't really care for it. Squirrel is back. Hello, Squirrel.
My man's on mushrooms if he thinks Michigan's going to beat Alabama. I got news for him. But a minute ago, Larry thanked you for, quote, sticking with the tide. Well, what in the hell is he talking about? You picked Georgia Saturday morning.
I don't even remember that part of the world.
You know, the whole panel. And what surprised me the most, I couldn't believe Roman picked Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I was in shock, but I think you have to understand, Squirrel, that for Roman and everybody else, I mean, those guys got into the weeds, and that's how they felt.
I guess they did, but how did you not see that thumping coming a mile away? I mean, the Georgia fan base had conceded the game. I mean, they were calling in, saying they were probably going to
I don't remember that, but anyway, it's always easy on Monday to go back on all the correct predictions.
Yeah, well, I was crowing last week. You know, like I said, I saw it coming, and I went ahead and took a little bit on the money line on Saturday, and my futures bet is looking pretty good too. But can we talk about Michigan for just a minute? I mean, what better Christmas present for Bama fans than to get the University of Michigan in this game? Is there a more entitled fan base, a fan base that thinks they're entitled to not having accomplished anything in, 30 years? Is there other Notre Dame? I mean, I can't think of one. And your boy Harbaugh, I knew you and him had some friction. How many years ago did he call you? Did he refer to you as Pete?
That was 2017 that he called me. What did he call me?
He called you Pete Feinbaum.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at. Yeah, so give me just a second. I always hate to do this, but I want to make sure I get the context of that accurate. But he called me the unabashed. What was it again, guys? He called me he called me Pete Feinbaum, the unabashed SEC water carrier.
Oh, yeah.
And I really need to get my facts straight. That was the exact tweet that he put out. By the way, he was correct about part of that.
What was that, the water carrier?
Yeah, the unabashed water carrier. And I'll tell you, I've been. The funniest thing was yesterday on all the shows I had crimson glasses. I had a burgundy sport coat on. Somebody said you really were wearing crimson-colored glasses yesterday.
Hey, but one last thing, this could be Feinbaum's last college game. I mean, not Feinbaum, Harbaugh's last college game. And what better way to send him out than Alabama just dumped that ass? I'm predicting 38-13 Alabama. Aloha.
I think you're right, yeah. By the way, here's I just finally found the Harbaugh tweet this is from February 16th, 2017. I don't even remember the context of this, but he goes, Pete Feinbaum, the unabashed SEC water carrier, really needs to get his facts straight. Hashtag alternative facts. I think it had to do with his contract extension. How did that tweet? I've been into the sauce already. How did that tweet age Coach John Harbaugh? We'll be right back after this.
Hey, Paul, thanks for taking my call, buddy. Pollock done woke that giant. And don't I remember a couple of weeks ago when Darryl said that Kirby develops players better than Nick Saban?
I remember that call.
And also, a lot of people that watch football, they don't watch enough. Because I can remember when South Alabama whipped Oklahoma State earlier this year. So Texas really wasn't playing anybody in their conference. And because I watched the Kentucky beat Louisville too at drum rolling, but Paul, after the game, I texted Larry over there because I
woke up on Sunday, a little concerned that the committee might do something unprecedented because there were a lot of unprecedented options. But I'm still really stunned that they left out an undefeated Power 5 champion in Florida State, a team that, had a good non-conference schedule, played 2 SEC teams, won 2.5 games with backup quarterbacks. I remain stunned that they did that because for as much as we all talk about, the 4 best versus the deserving, they've never come close to doing something like this before. And they really have always leaned towards the 4 most deserving resumes as they decide the college football playoff. And this year they veered in a different direction. So I remain stunned. I remain very sympathetic to everyone at Florida State, and especially Jordan Travis, because I hate how much the selection committee put on him specifically and his injury. And you get to a point where on Selection Sunday, you have a player saying they wish they'd broken their leg earlier. And to me, that just shows what a mistake the decision was to leave Florida State out. This is going to be an awesome game, and it's going to be a heavyweight fight. And really interested to see, this defense that has been one of the best in the country facing Jalen Milroe. We've seen how better he's gotten over the course of the season. The deep ball, the pressure he's going to put on the back end of Michigan's defense, as well as his running ability. So I think it's going to be a great matchup. But this is going to be one of those challenging matchups for Michigan that we've seen in the CFP era. They have a style of play that really works in the Big Ten. It's allowed them to bully teams and to set its tone at the line of scrimmage. And then we always say, Michigan's built better to win the Big Ten, but maybe Ohio State's built better to win a national championship because of the talent that they recruit and the way that they get their athletes in space, which is what we see at the Alabamas and the Georgias, even with that dominant offensive line or defensive fronts as well. So that's going to be the big challenge. Michigan still hasn't taken that step to actually win a semifinal, actually get to play for a national title. So in order to do that this year, it's going to be a huge challenge. And I think a lot of people are going to pick Alabama to win this game because of what we saw and how they were able to beat Georgia. Michigan's going to need to play a lot better offensively. J.J. McCarthy and the offense have not looked great here over the last stretch. They've done enough to win, and they've relied on that defense. But if the game comes down to J.J.'s arm, or if they need explosive run plays, we haven't seen that a lot this season. So they're definitely not coming into this matchup with a ton of offensive momentum, and they've struggled in this setting the last couple of years. So a tall task ahead, but, if Michigan gets through this game, plays for a national championship, I think there's no way that people can say they didn't deserve it.
All them dogs are counting down, about to put the anchor down. Hotty toddy, who's it gonna be? Cowbells and swamp, the Aggies roll. There's nothing like the SEC. The weekend's full of surprise. Williams likes to dip at a lead. On the Five Mom Show, Paul's on the roll. If he don't get the best of me,
Where's Paul? Where's Paul? Hell, I don't know. Coach Paul.
Razorbacks are hard to stop. War Eagles soaring in the wind.
Let me talk, damn it. Okay, go.
Tigers rocking in Missoula. Wildcats are grinning too. Talk about the tide that's rolling in. The weekend's full of surprise.
How you doing here, Paul Famo?
Upsets to rivalries. On the Five Mom Show, heads are gonna roll. If they don't get the best of me, we'll call Paul.
Just a friggin' way.
Can't make sense of it all.
I'm hearing your theme song in my head when I wake up.
I might call you 2, 3, 4, 5 times for the day over with.
Hey, welcome back. The final hour has arrived. We've been waiting for a number of calls today, and as we predicted nearly 3 hours ago, we wouldn't get some of them because there are certain callers that were not going to walk into this cauldron. But this next caller will. Legend is next.
Woo! Back where we belong, Black Hat brother. Back on the throne, baby. Back on the throne. Woo! Back on the throne, Paul. Where we belong, baby. Didn't you wake up happy this morning knowing Nick Saban was back on the throne, Paul? Tell the truth, baby.
Legend, you've been part of the show today. I mean, do I sound like I've had a good time the last couple hours?
Man, you do sound like you had a good time the last couple hours. You've been having a good time all week, shaking your head, slapping them FS, whatever. Well, I don't even know the damn name, but no more. TCU, slapping TCU around, man. You've been having a week, Paul. You've been having a week.
I hate seeing them because sometimes, Legend, you map out a plot, and I think collectively the two of us did last week, and it all came to fruition.
Yeah, I was telling my friend in the background there, my Black Hat brother, that me and Squirrel had a meeting late Saturday night at the Black Hat Mafia headquarters. If Alabama didn't get in, we was headed to talk to Boo. Woo! Couldn't keep us out. Can't keep us out. I got a few people I need to address, Paul. I kept receipts this last year, if you don't mind.
No.
JK! Get on down here, JK! Smack! 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 Get on down here, JK! Get on them knees! Kiss that ring right there. There you go, JK. Kiss that ring. Yeah, JK, you're going to be sitting at home watching the playoffs. And guess what? We in the playoffs. Go ahead and kiss that ring right there, JK. Kiss that ring. Come on down, Darryl. Come on down, Mr. 3P. Come on down, Kirby Smart. Developed players better than Big Saban. Kirby Smart's past him. Get on down there, Dale. Kiss that ring right there. Kiss that ring. Kiss it, Dale. Yep, kiss it. Kiss it. There you go. Come on down here, Michael Bratton. Yeah, the Brat. Come on down here, Brat. Get your butt down here. You used to being on your knees. Get on down here, Brat. Kiss that ring right there, Brat. There you go. Kiss it. Kiss We've talked all that crap. Now y'all in here with all these hallmarks and flowers today. Don't remember what you said for the last year, talking all that trash, that Nick Saban was done, that the king was done, that the Ali, the godfather of college football, couldn't get it done no more. And what happened? Saban slapped all of you. Pimp slap, pimp slap, pimp slap, pimp slap, pimp slapped all of you. Back on the throne where we belong, baby. Where we belong. I told you last week it was going to be like Foreman at Ali. We rope-a-doped you, Georgia. We rope-a-doped you. Them Dallas Turner and Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry knocked your ass out. Told you there wasn't going to be no three-peat, and they ain't going to be no three-peat, baby. Woo! Back where we belong. Back where we belong, baby. And let me tell you something. If you didn't know it, let's get real close up to it. Whether you like it or you don't like it, you learn to love it because it's the best thing going today. Woo! The Alabama Crimson Tide, baby. Pimp slap to all y'all. Back where we belong. Now get your ass up here, Iron Man, and kiss that ring. Kiss the ring, Iron Man. Don't all that trash. I kept receipt. Nick Saban made a fool out of all of you. Now we're going to cap it off by taking these cheaters behind the woodshed and beating the hell out of them. I hope you got every play, Jim Harbaugh, because we're going to beat your
Hey,
soul.
Legend. I know he's your hero, but you're kind of going up against the nature boy in this game. He's been awfully talkative lately.
I'm going to put an elbow on Nature Boy and DDT his ass like Jake the Snake Roberts. Paul, you need me and K-Dub to go down there with you, brother.
Pretty good chance. I wouldn't mind having you out in Pasadena.
Yeah, me and K-Dub going to have to get together. We said a few weeks ago, man. If that's what happened, it happened. Let me say this, Florida State. You lost to Kentucky. You beat a team that lost to Kentucky. You barely beat the Gators, yada, 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 wah, wah, wah. Kiss it! Kiss the ring! We back, baby. I told you, Georgia. I built you. I destroyed you. Daddy's come home. He's on the throne. Now get your ass off, Kirby. It belongs to Nick. Elvis has left the building. Woo!
Well,
Bill is up next in Ohio. Hello, Bill.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having me on this, quite a day to talk about football. I appreciate it. As I said, I was kind of talking off the air there. Really, I just want to talk about the hypocrisy and really the incompetence of the committee, as I see it. I could go through a lot of different things, but you look. They said we're not the same team. Well, they had two games with their starting quarterback out. The first one, they went down to the swamp and beat Florida more handily so than Alabama did at Auburn. And I would say they're, pretty comparable teams, pretty comparable places to have to play. And so, right there is even. And then with the third-string quarterback, another quarterback, they go to the championship game, beat Louisville more handily so than the starting quarterback did Clemson. Two similar, once again, Louisville ranked higher teams. So why would they have any merit in saying it's not really the same team? You just can't cherry pick games and say, well, look how good Alabama looked against Georgia, and look how bad the Florida State offense looked against Louisville. Really, really hypocritical, I think. Football is arguably the biggest team sport. You take away one player, take away a coach, it's not necessarily that big a deal. You look at Michigan, and I know you looked at them close this year. 6 games without Jim Harbaugh, and really, to be truthful, Paul, 2 games without Jim Harbaugh. They won without Jim Harbaugh the only 2 games they had. They beat Penn State on the road and beat Ohio State at home without their coach. And, that was kind of thrown in the criteria from the committee with if a coach is missing, if a player is missing. Well, obviously, Harbaugh missing did not hurt Michigan. And you can argue all day long how much the starting quarterback from Florida State being gone hurt them, but obviously in the end, they were 13-0. They just skirted the Texas situation. Florida State should have been over Texas. I mean, they both won comparable leagues. Florida State 13-0. Texas with the loss. Texas kind of what they were hanging their hat on was this great win at Alabama, which I agree it was. But according to the committee, that really shouldn't have been a great win because that wasn't the same Alabama team. I've heard that, that wasn't the same Alabama team. Well, if that's not the same Alabama team, you can't give Texas that much credit for beating them. I don't know how you feel about any of that.
Well, Bill, I've heard it all, and I appreciate one more view. Thank you very much. Handsome Joe is up next. Hello, Handsome.
Roll Tide, roll Paul, Fireball, and you know what? Bill up in Ohio, Paul. Is he really that ignorant? I mean, come on. He's going to say, well, Florida State, they, about to win with Florida. Hey, Alabama beat the #1 team in the country. They beat a Florida Gator team that's garbage. I mean, it ain't even comparable. And I tell you what, Paul, and I got 2 points I want to make. First is, okay, say Georgia would have beat Alabama. Florida State would have been playing Georgia anyway. So let's just see if Florida State can do what Alabama did and take down Georgia. Except we went to the state of Georgia to do it. Florida State's going to have them down in the state of Florida. So it's going to be more like a home game for them. Let's see if they can beat Georgia. Let's see how good that Rose Bowl game would have been had Georgia beat Alabama, because that's where the Rose Bowl would have been, Florida State and Georgia. They're still going to play each other. Let's just see how Florida State can handle that right there. Because I got a good feeling that Georgia's fixing to roll the train on them. I mean, they're fixing to roll the
Well, I mean, those things,
things,
Joe, I realize how important some people are looking at that game, but that's not really. I mean, I'll give Kirby Smart enormous credit. He can get his team up for it. But you know better than anyone, Nick Saban in 2008 lost the SEC championship game, and his team rolled over against Utah. A couple years later, in 2013, they lost to Kick 6. That shattered their three-peat. You know what happened the next game? Oklahoma beat them. Really not a great Oklahoma team. So that is one of the most difficult things a coach can do, especially in the era of NIL. Saban did it last year. He had 2 generational players. He got them ready, but they were also playing Kansas State.
And I want to say this, Paul. I'm glad we are going to a 12-team playoff next year, because now there's more than 3 good teams. I think the transfer portal, NILs, it's made a lot more better than just 3 teams a year. But I want to say this about Darrell and J.K. They've run their heads all year long. And, they're the 2 main ones. Georgia's got some good fans, they do. But those 2 idiots right there, Paul, I mean, their opinions is about as relevant as a fart in a bathtub. And J.K., what he can do is sit there and play with a little rubber ducky in his tub, stick his head in the water, smell his own stinking self, and look for those little Miami Hurricanes while he's down there. You have a good day, Paul. Roll Tide, roll, baby. We're back. Bama's back, baby.
And we are coming right back after this. Robin is up next in Arkansas. Hello, Robin. You there, Robin?
I just wanted to get your opinion on something. I think it'd be very nice if University of Central Florida loaned their floats from their national championship parade to Florida State for their parade.
I swore I'd never go back to 2017 with all the flack we caught, and thank you, from at UCF, but this does have a similar ring to it, does it not? I mean, I'm sure somebody will award Florida State a national championship. Augie is up next. Hello, Augie.
Paul, how insufferable is it going to be for us non-Alabama fans for the next month?
Pretty bad.
I mean, I was thinking about all of these people who are calling you in with their very thoughtful, introspective, cogent points on why Florida State should be in, and they're trying to convince you otherwise. Do they not realize that you just cashed that big Sankey check? And there is no way, short of the second coming, that you're going to admit anything other than the SEC has to be in this. But people don't watch your show. They must not get it. But outside of the big games, to me, the best SEC bowl matchup, I think you've got Ole Miss and Penn State, right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good game, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, I haven't really explored too many games beyond the one we've been talking about, but there's some very, I think Missouri's matchup is phenomenal as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are going to be two of the better bowl games of the season outside of, the Final Four. So there's a lot of other stuff going on to talk about. But
yeah, but Augie, I mean, you're smart enough to realize that the day after this,
oh no, I know
the oxygen in the room is going to be fixated on one subject.
But this subject has been beat to death a billion times. Paul, what do you think I got to say, Paul, what do you think about our matchup with Wisconsin? Isn't that just electrifying?
No, it's really not.
Thank you, BK, for Wisconsin. But, Paul, what's the likelihood Alabama wins it all? Saban says adios, goes out on top. Any likelihood? Is it even possible?
Yes, it is possible.
Oh, so you're saying yes. I would have thought you would have said, no way in hell he's coming back, period, end of story. But there is a possibility. There's hope for the rest of us, right? Because that's
I think part of that answer surrounds what he did Saturday more than what he would do 3 weeks from now or 5 weeks from now. It's beating Kirby Smart and ending that. I personally believe is maybe as important to him as anything else.
Wow, so you're saying that this might be it anyway? I know.
I'm not saying it. I'm just answering your question. You have not heard me address that all day because I don't know.
I know. I got you. But it's also insightful, Paul, that John is looking forward to the restaurants in Pasadena. Not the game, but the restaurants in Pasadena. You know what would be pure hell for John? If he had to go to the Rose Bowl and sit between Legion and Joe.
Well, I would like that.
I mean, in every small southern town, they've got these two dogs that always run around the street. This bigger one, scraggly old pot liquor dog, and there's this little one that hangs out with him. That's Legion and Joe. I can see it now in Red Bay, the two dogs, the big dog Legion, the little dog Joe, and all we're going to hear is a bunch of yapping about Alabama. And, hey, I may not like Alabama, but I got to pull for them to win it all. But, Paul, do you think it's going to come down to Bama and Texas again? That's the way I see it.
I do.
Boy, so either way it goes, we can claim the SEC is still the supreme conference.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Anyway, Paul, congratulations. You did a hell of a job. I think you need to go into politics because you could be a campaign manager for anybody. You helped pull this off, and you deserve every penny of that check Sankey's going to send you.
Well,
great job.
Thank you. There won't be any checks, but I do feel happy about where we are right now. Thank you very, very much. Let's continue with more calls. Maria is in Florida. Hello, Maria.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
We're doing great. Thank you.
Great show. I've been on several years ago when we talked about some comparisons with Urban Meyer and Spurrier and their coaching style and the reputations. So love to get on the show again and love to talk about the selection committee.
Thank you. By all means.
So, Paul, what I wanted to say was, obviously I'm a lifelong Gator. Am I biased in that way? Yes. But if you look objectively at this, and even if it was the Gators in the position of FSU, which they actually couldn't be because they're in a dominant conference, there's rules for rules. I'm an attorney, and there's clearly rules for reasons and exceptions. And the fact that they allow the committee to look at injured players, coaches, or other players being absent, those things are in place exactly for what happened this year. In addition to that, Florida State, clearly the committee is making a decision that out of all the Power 5 conferences, they had to leave one out. And they've truly made a decision that the ACC is the weaker conference. I don't know if I completely agree that Washington is a powerhouse. We'll see if that happens. But clearly, this committee, which is comprised of multiple people with connections to the ACC, chose to choose other conferences over the ACC.
Yeah,
Would you
Maria,
agree?
Boo Corrigan is in the ACC. He's the guy that's out front. I mean,
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
right.
I'm glad
That's
you
what
made
I'm
that
saying.
point.
I mean, you have the head of the selection committee that's connected to the ACC. You have, I might be wrong, I've listened to a lot of shows, they say 4 or 5 members connected to the ACC. I mean, at the end of the day, this also is about money, okay? So basically, you want to put together the best matchups, and I know it's a money-making business also.
If I could interject, I hate to interrupt. I want to address that because that is you're a lawyer. You want to keep things inside the white lines, and that is a faulty argument that I've heard people make for this reason. The money is already in the bank. The conferences and college football teams have already, this agreement has another year or two to go. So Alabama and Michigan, as great as that is, and let's say 5 million more people watch than would have watched Michigan and Florida State, it's not changing anything because these games are precious to companies like ESPN. And I think I heard some commentator yesterday try to act like that's the only reason. That is not the only reason, because we're already moving to a different system next year. That in 2026 will move into a new contract. So these administrators are not like, I mean, I might do that. I might think about TV ratings, but these are wonks. I mean, these are academicians. These are administrators. These are not people that the money. Again, I've said it before, but it's worth repeating. The money is in the bank. We'll take a short break. Back after this. What was Saturday night like, and take us through the really preparation, anticipation, and the aftermath.
Going into the game, as a team, we felt very, very secure. We had a kind of up and downhill practice, but on Thursday during like our final real practice before the walkthrough and stuff, it was really, really good. As far as like we went out there, we made some mistakes, blew a couple coverages, but as far as the energy, intensity, and just everybody being ready to play, we were ready for it. It's the time of the year, so with the week kind of being up and down, people were sick. I was even like a little under the weather myself, but I feel like all those moments and like the adversity that you have before going into a big game, it kind of shows you the outcome of the game and how it's going to be. And on the day of the game, we always go to church, and like before church starts, I pray. So I get a text from Caleb. He's like, "Where you at?" And then like my position coach, Tavares Robinson, he's calling me. He's like, "Where you at? We ready to pray." And I'm stuck on floor 19, so I ran all the way down there to the church. Ended up missing the prayer, and the word was just talking about being like together as one. So I would say that thing, Coach Saban kind of like directed it and correlated it into like us define our identity as a team. And with that being said, like we went out there and played together as one. We were in a hostile environment that was very, very crazy, very surreal. And I would say it was definitely the second best environment we've been in. The first one was definitely our fans versus LSU. But just being in that environment and being able to go out there and have fun with my teammates, I mean, that's why you come here. And I loved every moment of it. I spoke with Coach Saban today, and I just even asked him, I was like, "Coach, you know, at any point in time, did you kind of get nervous about the committee and them not putting us in?" And he was like, it crossed his mind a little bit that maybe they might not put us in, but I feel like just us looking at our pedigree of work and what we have accomplished this year, I kind of feel like, I won't necessarily say like they had to put us in, but I felt like the rules and all the stipulations that they had as far as factoring everything into the equation, it was a very, very great chance that we did get in. And we're very, very fortunate to get in. And, you know, I felt some type of way even about like Florida State because, you know, I'm from Tallahassee, Florida. And I feel like, you know, it's just one of those things where even like me talking to Jordan Travis, I just got done talking to Keon Coleman, guys like that, it makes it something that you want to go out there and play for. like even them not being able to get in, like I'm gonna go out there and play for my guys, and you know, play for Bama Nation, but even play for them too, being from Tallahassee.
And we are back. What an afternoon this has been. So what's Cat Daddy upset about? What's the problem, Cat Daddy?
Big Paul, greetings.
Yeah, no, I heard all that earlier. What did you not say that you needed to say?
All right, Mr. Feinbaum, let's get it down to the bottom line if that's what you're ready to do. But you sit here and you sanctify Alabama.
Roll Tide.
In a Hail Mary pass.
Roll Tide.
Okay, Mr. Feinbaum, you know, I had 99% of people come into the liquor store today, and they think the entire
Hey, Cat Daddy, I don't know how to break this to you, but the folks that come into your liquor store don't constitute the people that make the decisions at the college football playoff. I mean, I appreciate them being fans, but that's not exactly what I would call a poll. A reputable poll from a liquor store in Columbia, South Carolina. But I do appreciate you calling back. Let's get to someone objective, okay? AJ is up next.
Never sample. Hey, Cat Daddy, never sample your product because it sounds like you've been sampling a lot of it tonight.
It sounds like, you know, I don't know about you, AJ. I worked at McDonald's my first job, and when my shift was over, they let us grab whatever we wanted and go downstairs and eat or take it home. I think that rule must apply at the package store where our friend.
Well, yeah, whatever don't sell, you can have.
He
That's
was.
right.
You always hear the expression. What is it, Randy? 3 sheets into the wind. He was 9 sheets into the wind.
I think he surpassed. Hey, he can't talk about Larry. That's for sure. After the night, ain't no doubt about that. But Paul, how you gonna make it the rest of the year? I know you're broke.
I am broke.
I know you're broke. Sunday morning, you woke up. I know what you did Sunday morning. You woke up and broke out that J.P. Chase Morgan black card, and you swiped it.
I did. How did you know that?
What are you and Mr. Dr. Firemom going to do the rest of the year?
We're going to help out Habitat for Humanity and try to see if we can steal some money off the top.
Well, you're going to have to climb out of that crimson closet that you stay in. And then, you know, everybody's going to know what's going on. But that's what happened, Paul. I mean, you know, you got them in, Paul. Every bit of this is your fault, Paul. I mean, at least explain to Feinbaum Nation how Alabama actually got in. It's because you paid them. You swiped the card. You did the deal. And now
AJ, let me assure you, I would not ever use a card to pay someone off. There are better ways.
Well, I was wondering because you know, Mrs. Dr. Feinbaum's going to check the mail a couple of days, and she's going to see that transaction. She's going to be like, "What did you do?"
Oh, hey, I've never made any bones about my wife being an Alabama fan, so she said fine.
Where did she graduate from?
Vanderbilt.
She an Alabama graduate?
No, she's a Vanderbilt graduate.
Vanderbilt. That's right. I'm sorry. Well, I was going to say, but I know it was because of you that got them in. I mean,
well, and she's an Alabama fan because she grew up in an Alabama family. That's all there is to it. And she didn't mind. I mean, we've had a good year, and we decided to give back.
Well, you know, Paul, it's funny because
you ever hear the expression "you dance with who brought you"? We got here with Alabama fans. Roll Tide.
That's beautiful. You know, are you there?
Yeah, no, I have absolutely no interest in leaving.
Okay, well, after the 9, I wasn't either. But you know, I will say, Paul, at the end of the day, you were the one that ridiculed Nick Saban the most. You were his biggest critic.
Absolutely.
You were Alabama's biggest critic early in the year. And I just would like to know, how does that crow taste, Paul?
Pretty good, AJ. Pretty good. Johnny B is up next. Hello, Johnny.
Hey, Paul, thanks for taking my call. And
Thank you.
A big roll tide. And AJ made me think about something there that you may be having some money problems, because I was as proud as I've ever been for you challenging the committee like you did. And then I looked, and you've got on maize and blue Michigan shoes. Did it get so bad you had to borrow some Harbaugh clothing to do that?
I borrowed the shirt from Harbaugh and the tie from Nate Oates.
Yeah, your wife's got to be smart. Isn't she from Hackleburg up near around?
Well, no. Her brother, she's from Birmingham. Her brother-in-law, who grew up in Birmingham, has a place up in Hackleburg.
All right. Hey, one more thing before I go. Everybody was nervous. I felt like I was about to play the game. But I want to give a big shout out to Stephen M. Smith.
Oh, my goodness. He got overshadowed
M.
today.
He stole the show, Paul. That was one of the best things ever. And I feel
I told the guys earlier while we were sitting around celebrating Alabama and the CFP with some champagne that I picked up at the package store, that I thought Stephen M. Smith's Friday afternoon in Atlanta was one of the greatest moments of the year.
It had to be. It had to be. It's what makes live stuff like that so wonderful. And I just want to say, roll tide, and thanks for taking my call.
Thank you very much. Okay, I realize everybody wasn't with us Friday afternoon, or you may have been, and then you missed it. Why don't we go ahead and share this for those who missed it? This is Stephen M. Smith. He writes for Touchdown Alabama, and we were just reassociating. I think our other guest did a Larry Munson invitation, so this is what happened on the air.
Chris Davis bring it out the end zone. Chris Davis is going 25, 20, 25, 30, 40, going to the 50, 50, 45. Chris Davis is going. They're not going to catch Chris Davis. He falls backwards into the end zone. Nick Saban, disgusted, coming off the field. He doesn't know what's happened, but Auburn's won the game on the most zany play in the history of college football. What in the world just happened, Bill? I have no idea, but Auburn just won.
So, okay, I remember now. Wes Blankenship had done one of the famous Georgia plays. Oh, I'm sorry. Blankenship did the Milrow throw in Larry Munson voice. So then the crowd chanted for Stephen M. to do the kick six. That was my idea. And do we have it? Let's do it one more time now that you know what it is.
Adam Griffith takes the kick. It's going to go. It's got some distance. It lost leg of Chris Davis. Chris Davis bring it out the end zone. Chris Davis is going 25, 20, 25, 30, 40, going to the 50, 50, 45. Chris Davis is going. They're not going to catch Chris Davis. He falls backwards into the end zone. Nick Saban, disgusted, coming off the field. He doesn't know what's happened, but Auburn's won the game on the most zany play in the history of college football. What in the world just happened, Bill? I have no idea, but Auburn just won.
I know there's been a lot of off-the-field controversy about where Alabama goes from here for a play-by-play announcer. I think we just found him. I mean, is there anybody better than Stephen M. Smith? Stephen A. Smith, eat your heart out. We'll be right back. And we have heard now the Heisman finalists will be in New York this weekend, and unlike last year when there was a little more controversy, we have Jaden Daniels, obviously, who's now the favorite, Marvin Harrison, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix Jr. Seems like everything is tilting toward Jaden. Let's get back to the calls. Think about this for a second, right? You know who's called. Have you thought about who has not called? Have you thought about who has not?
Hey, man, listen to me, man. How y'all gonna leave Jalen?
This is like one of those sitcoms. They all come into the bar. It's Cheers.
Hey, man, how y'all gonna leave Jalen out, man? The people been whooping y'all ass out.
This is a young man who didn't call for 2 years after Alabama lost to Georgia.
Man, I don't give a damn about no damn 2 years.
That you were going to get run. You dropped a couple of expletives, and we just can't tolerate that. We're a family show. May not seem like that sometimes, but we are. You can talk trash, but you have to talk PG trash. No, you can't go. You can't go being at Larry's house watching the game trash. James is calling next. Hey, James.
Hey, sir, how you doing?
You're doing great, thank you.
I'm kind of a new caller. I think I've called one time before, doing a tour of Viola's reign. And my brother was Shannon Arnold from Lander, Wyoming. You remember him?
Oh, I sure do, absolutely.
He passed away September 28th.
Oh, my goodness, I'm so sorry to hear that. I appreciate you sharing that with us, James.
Yes, and but he thought a lot of you, and now I've taken up his slack, and I'm watching your show now. And I'm not an often caller or nothing like that, but I enjoy your show, and I admire you because you have to be a great commentator to put up with all the characters. I in my mind, I go, these ain't how they are in real life. These have to be characters they playing or something, but
well, James, I want you to know this, and again, I want to reemphasize how sorry we are to hear about your brother's loss. But one thing that there are a lot of things about this show that are routine. It's like a job. Everybody has one.
Yes, sir.
But when it comes to the character callers, you can hear it in my voice. I mean, those are fun for me. That's like inviting the dysfunctional family over for Christmas.
Yes, sir. Oh,
and we have a blast. And James, we have great memories of your brother, and you be well, and our deepest condolences. Thank you very, very much. Let's check in with Jerry next. Hey, Jerry.
Hey, what's going on, Paul? How are you?
We're doing great. Thank you.
Hey, I'm going to get straight to business here, and I'm just going to go and pitch out a couple takes to you and see what you think.
Okay.
All right. So, first off, I've never seen so many Auburn and Georgia fans suddenly become FSU fans overnight. It's actually hilarious.
It happens like that.
And I'll say, secondly, the committee, they got 1,000% correct with dropping FSU out and putting Bama in. And it's not even a debate at all. And if people disagree with it, they're either they're not a college football observer.
Well, but you know what's interesting, Jerry? We heard it from one of our guests earlier. And how many times have you heard people rage for best? But you know what everybody says when it comes to Florida State? They deserve to get in. And that is, to me, the rub between what happened and what didn't happen. Alabama earned its way in. Florida State deserved to get in, and they didn't.
Right. And most of the blowback that you're getting from there, it's either due to Bama fatigue, Bama bias, or FSU, Auburn, Georgia fans just doing complaining. But are you familiar with Danny Cannell?
I used to work with Danny every day for 2 years on College Football Live. I'm very familiar with him.
I don't know how you put up with him.
Well, it was a challenge, and at that point, I did some serious day drinking.
As I'll tell you, I do think Danny, for all his unlimited Bama bias commentary, because I think it fuels Bama Nation of the Tide, but he's been crying about this whole FSU thing for a long time.
Oh, yes.
So, and basically, I don't know if he's thought about this, but Jim Phillips, his boy, ACC commissioner, he's been more focused on shaking hands and forming alliances.
Yeah, no, Jerry, you're right. We have thought about that, and I like Jim Phillips very much. Been very friendly with him. I think he's a genuinely nice person, and I think he's done a good job as a commissioner. But I think his biggest mistake was 2 years ago getting in bed with the Big Ten and the Pac-12, and I have no idea why, because his league was going to benefit even then. And it ended up costing him, because we said it 1,000 times, but they would be in right now, and we wouldn't be having this pity party down in Tallahassee. Jay is up next in Alabama. Hello, Jay.
Roll Tide, Paul. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
SEC champs, baby. Give me a Roll Tide one time, Paul. Give it to me.
Roll Tide.
I see
that. By the way, that was not
JK
nearly as enthusiastic as it was yesterday at noon when they announced it. But I am beginning to lose my voice, so I don't want to scream too loud.
Yeah, I did a lot of hollering myself, me and my fiance. I see that JK and Daryl are missing. They must have entered the witness protection program.
One thing that I was always taught playing insignificant Little League baseball or basketball, that you show the same amount of class when you lose as when you win. How many times have you heard that, Randy? And character was revealed today about JK, about Daryl. Who else? The guy from California, Dr. Bulldog. How many times did he talk about buying old Jimmy from Tuscaloosa beer at the national championship game? I'll cover the beer for you, Bulldog. I got Jim's beer. We'll be right back.
Fourth and 31, Mr. AJ. By the way, he's still at Jordan Hare searching for the ball. The second person I want to talk to, Paul, is Jim Harbaugh. Did you see his face reaction when they found out they had to play Alabama?
I mean, he said, "Man, I wish they hadn't caught us on that sign stealing thing until after this game."
Well, Paul, I tell you, Connor Stallion ain't gonna be able to help him this time, baby.
Georgia fan, who's y'all daddy? Nick Saban is y'all daddy. Roll damn Tide, Paul.
I look forward to seeing Georgia and Florida State in the Crybaby Bowl, sponsored by Kleenex. Then they can whine a little more after that.
Really too bad in one sense that Michigan didn't wind up with Florida State, because then we could have called it the Ethics in College Football Bowl.
Oh, my goodness.
Man, I went running through this house like I did every time, screaming like a crazy man. Open my door, sliding glass door. We won! We won!
I have no heart.
What did he say, Randy? The little fella. The little fella.
The one thing that everybody, don't talk over me. Don't mess up a good call. The one thing everybody says, oh, that's a great interview, Paul.
My man's on mushrooms if he thinks Michigan is going to beat Alabama. I got news for him.
The real loser, the one we should feel sorry for, is a Iowa bar called the X-Golf. They sponsored free beer till Iowa would score, so I think they're still giving out beer at this time.
Mr. Pinstripe himself, also known as JK.
Oh, JK. I forgot about that.
Paul,
I forgot.
He said, Stacey, he came on the show and said, Stacey, one thing we going to have in common is you and I going to be sitting at home on the couch watching the playoffs. Didn't he say that?
He did say that.
Well, Mr. Pinstripe, and I'm calling him Pinstripe because they going to the Pinstripe Bowl.
And we are done for a memorable Monday. We're going to make way for Read and React after us. Hope you enjoy the show. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon.
All right, that's going to be it for tonight for this live stream. I've done 6 deliveries, 6 more deliveries of the cruising Kansas event. So I got a total of 9 completed. So I need to do 5 more, and I'm gonna do that tonight. Yeah, I say tonight because it's already the next day. It's past 1 a.m. for me, so yeah, I'm getting kind of tired. So yeah, 5 more deliveries, and then after that we'll be done with the Cruising Kansas event, and then sometime next week I'll move on to the Christmas event, and I'll see what that is. Alright, that's it. So I'll be live again tonight, a much earlier time. So yeah, I'll do the rest of this Cruising Kansas event. Well, I'm glad the stream went well. It seemed like it did, so I'll be back again very soon. Until then, have a great night.